For people, sorry, good evening, everyone, who's here already. If you don't have your full name, like first and last name in your, as your name on screen, would you just unmute and say your first and last name for the minutes?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
How you doing?
good.
Does my name come up on anywhere in there or no?
It just Joseph's iPad.
Okay. Do you want my last name?
Yeah, that would be ideal.
It's Salvador.
Thank you.
Okay. You have a good night. I'll be watching, that's all.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome.
How are you tonight, Tess?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Well, thank you.
I'm sorry for the confusion over contacting you.
Okay. These things happen. I had a Zoom with a fiduciary litigation section of the probate court today, and the clerk sent out the wrong, Zoom in information. So we had 6 lawyers trying to connect to a hearing with a judge waiting, and no, none of us could get in, and we're exchanging texts and emails and phone calls, and we used last time, and so she was the number. So these things happen in this day and age. How are you, Mr. Chair?
You're on mute still, Chuck.
Can you hear me now? All right. My private practice email, which is the email I use to communicate with the board and yourself, Jim, when I don't know what happened to it today, but it's down. I have it on my iPhone. I do not have it on my computer. Tomorrow I'll get back on the computer and figure this out. But I don't have email. So I mean, I have it on the iPad. I have it on my iPhone, and you can also text me, Tessa, if you need to communicate with me. But I may not be able to exchange any documents in the next couple of days because I can't do that by my iPad. But we'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. But you know how that's very frustrating when that happens.
Yeah.
It's hard to live without a computer. I think it's maybe time for a new computer.
Happens. Would David speak his last name if he's?
David, who's connecting by audio? Is that who you're talking about?
Oh,
David,
his name showed up, but actually it doesn't show that he's connected, so I'm not sure.
It says he is connecting. He's in the process of connecting.
Okay.
That's what I see.
Okay.
And then I see a Joseph's iPad. I'm not sure who that is. And I see.
It's Joseph Salvador. He unmuted himself to.
Okay. And then I see a Tony Humphreys, who's been with us all along. And I see, I'm not sure who, Mary, I'm not sure. Do you know who that is, Tessa?
I do not.
She's muted.
May Emery, is it your first?
Yeah, Mayyemery is the. Okay, now David's connecting. There's Tony Humphreys. I see her. Joseph's iPad, and then there's a Mark, Borowiec. Who, that, no, that's Matt. Okay, Matt, yes, Matt. Okay, that's good. I know who he is. I don't see that we have quorum. In fact, I'm the only member here. So hopefully we'll have quorum. I expect, well, it's still it's 6:58 I have, so I expect town council will join us and the rest of the board will join us. Okay. All right, here comes more people. Megan, oh, there's Megan and probably Steve, which is the applicant. So there's Megan up there.
Hi there.
Hi, Megan. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
And then there's Jeff Lacy joining us. Jeff, you're muted. I don't know if you hear us. I don't see you, Jeff.
Now you do.
Okay, there you are. Hi, Jeff. Good evening.
Good evening.
We're still waiting for quorum. It is 6:59 by my calculation. Okay. He's good.
You guys find on Zoom that you have to turn the room lights so far down to keep yourself
Yes, sir.
looking like an albino?
Yes, my lights in my office right now are very low. Otherwise, it's too crazy. Hi, Steve. How are you? Andy Berg is joining us. Hi, Andy. How are you?
I'm doing well. Nice to see you all.
Yeah, we do have quorum, but I'd like to wait a few more minutes because I do expect town council to be here.
Town council's joining right now, and
Okay.
Gilmore did say that he was attending.
Yeah, so I would like to wait the traditional 5 minutes. So we have the applicants, we have Jeff Lacy, although he's not quite there. David is connecting to audio. Okay. Herb comes on in a few minutes, hopefully, and Donna McNichol, and then once both of them are here, we will begin, or 7:05, whichever is earlier. Okay, oh, there's Donna McNichol. Hello, Donna. Donna, you're on mute. I don't know. Okay, now you're not on mute. You unmuted yourself. Good to see you, Donna. We're just waiting for Herb Gilmore to come. We traditionally allow a 5-minute leeway for members, so hopefully he'll be joining us any minute now. Although we do have quorum, which is very good. We have
Sorry, I'm gonna put you on mute till my clock's.
okay, we have 3 voting members here. We have an alternate or an associate expected to join us. We have town council, we have council for the applicants, we have the applicants. Here comes someone. Mika, whoever Mika is. Mika, can you hear us? Or Micah? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Okay, here comes Herbert Gilmore with a big H. So. Herb, I don't know if you hear us, but you're on mute. Okay, you're unmuted. Good.
There's someone joined by phone. If they wouldn't mind stating their first and last name for the minutes.
The person on the phone is you are muted, so you should unmute yourself so you can speak to us. Okay, can you
Tessa, this is
for the
Anna
record, if you
Mancebo.
could. What's your
Thank
name?
you. Ann
What's your
Mancebo.
name?
Anna Mancebo.
Okay, you have that, Tessa?
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
All right, I think we have, it is Herb. Okay, we have all board members here. We have town council for the applicants. The applicants are here. It is, by my clock, it just turned 7:03. We'll call the meeting to order, and I will ask you, Tessa, to read what you need to read.
Thank you, Chair. Following the governor's restrictions on public meetings, this meeting is being held virtually using zoom.com for remote participation only. The public may access it following the instructions on this meeting's agenda posted on the town calendar. If, despite our best efforts, we are not able to provide real-time access, the public can request a recording of this meeting by contacting the town clerk.
Okay, excellent. All right. Moving down on the agenda, first item on the agenda is to approve the December 21st, 2020 meeting minutes. Have all the members had an opportunity, or anybody else? Is there anybody who spoke had an opportunity to review the minutes? And does anybody have any comments, changes for Tessa?
Tessa, the email
Jeff?
that
Go ahead.
the email that I received said that a bunch of materials were attached, including the minutes, but there were no attachments. That was an email from Tuesday, I think you sent.
It should have. Let me
Anyway,
I received the attachments. Andy and Herb, did you receive the attachments?
I must admit, I went half an hour before this meeting to look for them, and I did not see them on mine.
So you don't. So you're saying you never got the minutes then?
I haven't had the minutes to review.
All right.
let me
All right.
correct
The
that.
question is
by-
whether. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can send it to them now and they can review
Yes,
it now,
I
or we can.
absolutely can do that.
All right, so Tessa's going to send you the minutes right now, and so Jeff, you haven't reviewed the minutes. Andy, you have not reviewed the minutes. I have reviewed the minutes. Herb, do you have them? Did you get an attachment, Herb?
No.
No. All right.
so
I received
Okay,
the
that must have-
November minutes, but I did not receive the
Yeah.
December minutes.
same
Yeah,
here.
the December 21st, 2020 minutes, which I have in front of me.
Okay.
So if you can send them, Tessa, or we could.
Yes, I am doing it right now.
Well,
Oh,
thank
All
you.
right, so
Mr. Chairman, do we really, I mean, these are probably pretty extensive minutes. Do we really want to slog through them right now?
well, we don't have, normally, of course, the expectation is they would have been reviewed
Yeah.
prior to the meeting, so it's kind of we go through it, cite the mistakes, but no, I don't think there's any requirement, and in fact, I understand that there is not a requirement to approve the minutes at the very next meeting. I understand maybe town council could help within X amount of meetings, by the third meeting, I think, I'm not sure. Can you help us with that, town council? Can we delay this? We have another meeting scheduled for later this month. We have a meeting scheduled already for January 25th. Can I table the minets till January 25th?
Yeah, the statute says within a reasonable amount of time.
All right, so Jeff or Andy? Jeff, you disappeared. Does anybody want to make a motion to table the minutes?
Can we make a motion to table the minutes into our next scheduled meeting?
All right,
Which I believe
okay.
January 25th, 2021.
All right, Jeff, Andy Berg made a motion to table the minutes until the next meeting, which is January 25th, 2021. Do you want to second that, Jeff?
Second,
Okay, all in favor? Jeff Lacy, how do you vote?
aye.
Andy Berg, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Chair Chuck Damari votes aye.
Actually, what I'm realizing, this is Tessa speaking for those who are on the phone. What it might be an issue that if attachments don't go when I forward an email. So if any of the members besides Chuck have their email open, I just forwarded it again. But
okay, because there are some other attachments that, for example, that first email that included the minutes, the second attachment was the statute, Mass General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 6. So, and I asked Tessa to forward that so you would have all of that completely in front of you. The third was one version. There are two different versions now, but is one version of the Supreme Judicial Court decision, February 8th, 2019, Maria Balanta versus Zoning Board of Appeals of Brooklyn, which I think is relevant. The next one was another case, another Supreme Judicial Court case called Lombard versus Board of Appeals of Wellesley. And that's a February 8th, 1965 decision of the Supreme Judicial Court. And also from the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court is Goldhirsch versus McNair. Actually, it's not from the Supreme Judicial Court. I don't know why it says it's a summary, but it's an appeals court case in 1992, Goldhirsch versus McNair. And then there is the next case, which is David Willard versus Board of Appeals of Orleans, a 1987 case. So none of you received those attachments. The whole idea was for Jeff. You didn't receive them either, right, Jeff?
I have all this stuff from other sources.
And I have reviewed many of the ones mentioned as part of. I bought that. I've just lost the name of the book that Jeff mentioned. I bought a used copy of that the last time around, the big
Mark
planning
Bobrowski.
book. Yes, that
Okay.
one. Yes.
The
I
Green
now
Bible.
have a copy of that.
Called the Green Bible.
I just want to go on just in case. Just the most recent thing is Tessa sent 2 emails with many attachments. The most recent one that she sent is simply the notice of virtual public hearing, which you all have, but I do want to comment on that for a second. But you've already received that previously, obviously. It's part of the record in this case, read into the record. And then we have also, as part of the record in this case, is the application of the applicants. I think you certainly have all received that previously. Then the next attachment was a series of photos which have been introduced in evidence. Most of these photos were taken by members of the board. There's a final photo also taken by one of the abutters, Evans Jones of the 5 houses with circles on them. So that as we all know, that's introduced into evidence. The next attachment is a special permit circled in yellow. I think that you introduced this, Tessa. You gave this to us to remind us of the past. And the yellow portion, I think you all have this, but for those who don't, that's going to read that part of it. A significant consideration by the board was focused on the obstruction of view of the lake from nearby houses, in particular from 1 at 66 Shore Drive. The board finds that the increase of height, although detrimental to the view from at least one of the aforementioned houses in the area, is only partially so. This specific increase is not in nonconformity, being within the dimensional limitations for the district, and only partially detrimental to a abutter's view, is not sufficient to prevent the application from being approved. And later on, it was approved. Just to have that, so we know that that's another thing to talk about maybe. And then the next one is the minutes of September 30th, which I may comment on briefly. And the next one is the minutes of October 14th meeting, all having to do with this case. And the next one was the minutes of November 23rd. These are all approved minutes. That says draft, but I think, Tessa, you mailed another copy of this that was undrafted, right? We approved these minutes. Okay, good. Yeah. And so I think those 2 emails and the other supplemental email that you sent with the undraft, I think that's what I asked you to send to everyone. And also, did you all receive both from Town Council Donna McNichol and from Counsel James Martin, counsel for the applicants. Did you all receive their submissions? Jeff, you are saying yes? Okay, Andy Berg, yes?
And I did as well, yes. Yep.
And Herb, you have that too? Okay, so that was also submitted more recently. Okay, so I think we have everything we need. Jeff, go ahead.
I took 4 more photos today of the site and its surrounds, and I've sent them on to the planning board address, and I'm hoping to get them introduced into evidence for this case.
You sent them on to who?
I see them. I see them, Jeff.
Oh, you have them, Tessa.
Yes.
I have not received them though, have I?
No, they were sent half an hour ago.
Right.
So I did not know
And I
about.
would not, if it was sent a half hour ago, the only way I would have it is on my iPhone, because as I told everyone, my computer is non-functioning right now. I mean, I can see these files on my computer, but I can't get new emails as of this morning. I sent some emails last night, that was fine. But as of this morning, there's no, after 10:30 or so, I'm looking at, 9:31 this morning, I've received no emails on my computer, so.
I have these photos, you know, if it's appropriate, I have them on my screen and can share them later and discuss them.
Well, if you want to introduce them at some point, we obviously, if we're going to discuss them and consider them, we have to have them. And
Yep.
Andy and Herb, you have those photos?
I
You
do
don't have
not.
them.
No, I
No one
do
has
not
them.
believe
Okay,
we've
so
received
at some
those.
point, if it becomes appropriate, I thought one of the main, Jeff, you've read all these decisions though, is that right?
Yep.
Okay, because I think that was one of the main reasons. Let me go back to my, go back to the minutes that I have, since I do have them. I think one of the primary reasons of continuing the case to tonight was so that you would have an opportunity, Jeff, to review some of the decisions that were mentioned at the previous hearing or hearings. So that's one of the main reasons we continue this. And then in the meantime, of course, there's the town council's opinion, and there's James Martin also has had a submission, and he also asked us to read, and he submitted actually a better copy than my copy, easier to read, the Balanta decision, Supreme Judicial Court decision of February of 2019. Jeff, I assume you've read all of those things, is correct?
I think so.
Okay, okay. I'm gonna at some point ask you to comment, but before I do that, I just want to clarify something on the record, because I think there's some slight confusion. And I'm gonna go back to the minutes of the 20th. No, can I, with your permission, Attorney Martin, can I just for clarification purposes, I'm going to ask the applicants a question, and it has to do with the public notice that I submitted. We went through this at the September meeting, but I just want to go through it again because neither James Martin nor Donna McNichol were present, but so I just want to clarify for the record something. When you, in your original application, do I have your permission to question them, Jim?
Of course.
Okay. In your original application, if you recall, we talked, you in your application, you mentioned, let me put you over here. You said you wanted to rebuild the house on the existing footprint, increasing the current maximum height from 21.5 feet to 26.5 feet, as measured from the center of the house, total increase of 5 feet. And then you said, add a 20-foot wide by 8-foot deep porch on the lakefront side of the house. Yeah, and you said the proposed porch is within the minimum lake setback and does not further encroach, and does further encroach.
Yeah, we clarified that at the first meeting. It's in the minutes that we clarified it. That was an
Right.
error on our part.
Right, exactly. So I want to make it clear right now, since there, and please correct me if I am wrong. As to the side setbacks, there is no further encroachment under this plan. I'm addressing this to the applicants. Am I correct in understanding that?
That's what I
Correct.
believe, yeah. It's narrower than the house.
No further encroachments, and there's no encroachment as to this proposed porch. There's no encroachment on the lakeside setback. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's within the 25 foot.
Okay, all right. So, and again, I want to just clarify that. I'm sure Attorney Martin, you already knew that. Donna McNichol, just want to clarify that for you in case that makes any difference whatsoever in your opinion. I assume we're all in consensus that there is no further encroachment on the side setbacks insofar as that porch is concerned. Jeff, do we agree with that? Jeff?
You're saying it's not going to go out any farther.
Correct.
It's actually
On the
gonna
side, on the side. That's
be,
right.
it's gonna be actually in.
Yeah, it'll be
It's gonna,
in.
we're bringing it in a little.
It's gonna be, in other words, the way you're making this, it's gonna be not less, it'd be less non-conforming than more non-conforming, correct?
Correct.
On that porch that goes out to the side, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Goes out to the lake.
All right,
Yeah.
and looking at the plans, I'm sorry, Jeff, did you want to say something? No, okay,
I'm trying to remember the plans.
yeah,
My recollection was that within the foundational footprint, you were going to go straight up, maybe 5 feet or whatever. So the knee walls would go up, but they would go up along the existing plane of the side walls. So,
Correct.
So that would
Yeah.
maintain the same setback, not expand it, but not contract it either. It would be the same.
right.
So
right.
up it
It's the
goes,
same-
and then up it goes, so the peak is 5 feet higher.
Correct,
And then in addition, there would be dormers, and those dormers would be, they would not extend out any further. They would be within, they'd be inside the walls.
right.
Yes.
Correct.
So the
Still-
only thing I wanted to
Still
establish.
within
Go
the,
ahead.
still within the setback, but
Right.
not out farther. Yeah, okay.
Right, so I mean, all I wanted to establish here, just to make sure it's crystal clear, because of the problem with in the application and the public notice that we already corrected in the September meeting, but we're doing it again right now, that there, as to the side setbacks, both sides, there's no further encroachments. That's all I wanted to say. Nothing, for example, arguably, there would have been a further encroachment if on the peak level, there were 2 decks going out 8 feet each on each side. I mean, there's nothing like that happening here.
Correct.
Correct.
Are we all in agreement about that? Just want to make sure about that part of it. Okay, all right, Jeff, I want to turn it back over to you for a moment, and eventually to Attorney Martin and Attorney McNichol in terms of their views of the case. But I want to turn it back to you, since a primary motivating reason to continue was for you to have an opportunity to review these cases. And you have reviewed them, as you said. Is there any, where are you with this application relevant to those cases that you reviewed? And I assume I'm including in that any submissions of town council or any submissions of James Martin, because they obviously discuss in their submissions these cases.
Right.
So,
In the shortest possible way, where I am is, I believe at the last meeting, there was some question about whether alterations or extensions of single and 2-family dwellings within the footprint were allowed as of right, possibly because of the Willard case. So that was my first line of inquiry, reading cases and trying to figure out whether that was so. I'm not sure Willard was that informative on it, but Goldhirsch certainly was. And I can read a number of quotes from the Goldhirsch case that I won't read them unless I have to, but that affirm that a nonconformity can still be increased or intensified within an existing footprint. For me, Goldhirsch put that to rest. And that's how Bobrowski interpreted Goldhirsch as well. So then I went on and started reading some of the other cases, and my conclusion is that the zoning board has the authority to make a finding of whether the project is substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. There's sort of two findings to make. Number one, if the nonconformity is intensified, I guess that's a new word. The statutory word is I forget. Donna, what does the statute say that it is? Increased. Yeah, and that's sort of become in the cases. Increased means either added to or intensified. So first, there's that to consider, and there may be an argument that our zoning bylaw has already considered it en masse by stating that any project, even if it's within the footprint that increases the height beyond what it is, goes for a special permit and a finding. Our zoning bylaw may have already put that determination to rest. I would urge us to explore it ourselves. For me, I've made that determination that the nonconformity is intensified. So if that's so, then we go on to the Section 6 finding, which is a finding of whether it's substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood or not. So I think that's our proper role, is to go and make that Section 6 finding.
Okay, go ahead, Andy. You want to?
Well, so I guess what I was hoping to find out, Jeff, is sort of if you're, because I think the one thing that we were sort of caught on was the definition of neighborhood. And I wanted to sort of see where you were at on the definition of neighborhood, because, the definition of neighborhood that we had, talked about, I think varied wildly in our interpretations, as between some parts of the board. And so I wanted to see where you're at on what the definition of neighborhood was.
Well, whatever a neighborhood is, it probably starts from some locus and goes out. And how far out is debatable. Whether it's all of Lake Drive, or whether it extends around the lake to the other side, includes the whole district. I guess I fail to see the importance of how far out we're going to extend the neighborhood. I think there's no question that the immediate neighborhood, the houses in and around, opposite, across from, adjacent to, in the area, are the neighborhood. And maybe that goes out, but you can't say the closest ones aren't the neighborhood and the ones farther away are. So
well, I guess. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I have no trouble. I have no trouble with that immediate area on Lake Drive, and I'm not sure how I would put a circle around it, but certainly the people that have testified are within the neighborhood in my estimation. The houses to either side, opposite, I have no trouble considering them to be in the neighborhood.
Because I guess the thing where I'm concerned about is it does seem like we still have some sort of distance on that. And and because it is not substantially more detrimental to the immediate neighborhood. It's substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. And I do think that that is a sort of a, I think that's an important part of the consideration, you know, because the definitions that were sent along by town council that I read in Bobrowski, those seem to vary from what you're proposing a neighborhood is, because there is no mention of a thing called an immediate neighborhood.
Doesn't it, are you saying a neighborhood may not exist?
No, I'm saying that we can't consider the notion of, I don't think there's this notion of immediate neighborhood being these 3 structures or 5 structures around it. I do think, you know, we have to arrive at some definition of what a neighborhood is if we're going to consider if it's substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood.
Well, I guess if you take the neighborhood out far enough, this project will have no effect on it because it won't be anywhere near it. And you could probably get a large enough neighborhood so that a great percentage of those in it wouldn't be affected.
I recognize that, but that's a rhetorical question. I mean, I think that for the purpose of this, we really do have to come to a definition of what is the neighborhood this is in, because we're judging it as whether it's substantially more detrimental to that neighborhood. It's not the immediate neighborhood. It's not some other sort of, you know, proposed neighborhood. It is, what is this neighborhood?
So why don't we, since we have town council here, and I know in her memo, she talked about that, and I certainly want to hear the opinion of Attorney Martin on behalf of the applicants, how they would define neighborhood, and then and maybe our discussion between the board members could be more informed if we take into consideration the perspectives of our town council and the perspectives of Attorney James Martin. So I'll call on either one of you if anyone wants to jump in and start talking. Go ahead, Donna. Donna has her hand up.
I think the concept of the neighborhood, the size matters a lot. And I disagree with Jeff on saying that it doesn't matter whether it's the immediate neighborhood or bigger. And the reason I say that is because the Humboldt oil case in Amherst very specifically talked about whether within the neighborhood you had already allowed this type of project. And so I think that's why it becomes so important. Now, I know on Lake Drive, there's a lot of houses that have gone up on the lake, let's face it. Even within the immediate neighborhood, there are a lot of single stories that have become 2 stories, or single stories that have been replaced in the immediate neighborhood. But I think that the concept of the neighborhood is more than the immediate neighborhood. I would argue that the concept of neighborhood probably includes the Lake District. I don't think if you were talking about the forest conservation areas that you would include the whole zoning district. They're way too large. They certainly don't have any concept of a neighborhood geographically tied together or anything else. But I think the Lake District is, when you look at the cases, they talk about similarities, geographical similarities, you know, demographic, that kind of thing. And everybody that's familiar with Lake Wyola and the confines of Lake Wyola knows that the Lake Wyola Association, there's 4 Lake Wyola Association beaches around the lake. All of those are interconnected. They're all owned by the association. The association sets the rules for them. The association takes care of the roads there. So I think that there's a lot of indices that the Lake District is a neighborhood. I think that if people want to look at a smaller area for some reason, even though I think that language in the school committee of Springfield case really talks about history, demographics, geography, similar things. There's a lake association that meets at the association house, which is on the other side of the lake. That's where their meetings are monthly. That's where all their social events are. That's where everybody from the lake meets to have different social things going on. So knowing how the Lake Society is. I would argue that the district is the neighborhood. If you want to make it shorter, I certainly think you have to consider a lot more than just the immediate houses around 32 Lake Drive. I think that you have to consider all of Lake Drive down to the very big houses down at the end, at the dead end, all the way up to my end of Lake Drive. And Pine Hill or whatever that road is, I can't remember the name of that road, and the other roads that go out to Locks Pond. So, you know, at the very least, that's the neighborhood. What you all decide as far as the neighborhood is going to be up to you. It's not up to me. But I think that from reading the school committee case, from reading Humboldt Oil, I think you can legitimately consider the entire Lake District given the society that is there. But I think that at the very least, you have to consider that west side of the lake. And I don't think you just consider the 6 or 7 houses around 32 Lake Drive. And why that's important is because in the Humboldt case, they talk about, have you allowed projects like this in the neighborhood?
Okay. Attorney Martin, do you want to comment on the definition of a neighborhood to help inform our opinion?
I will attempt to be brief here. I concur with Attorney McNichol. I don't see how you can exclude any section of the Lake Wyola district, particularly when, because it's a community. When you have an association that takes care of the roads, when you have people, every homeowner in the area paying dues, utilizing the public, the association beaches and having access to them and having social events, it totally meets the definition of a neighborhood. And that is critical because, as Donna McNichol pointed out, you have to, everyone in that neighborhood is entitled to be judged as other people have been. And it's, you know, the record is clear that this board has allowed other structures to go up to the 28 feet and have dormers. So I don't know how you can redefine neighborhood any other way than the Lake District.
Okay. Since I asked all members to do site inspections, that includes Herb Gilmore. I know you're not voting, you're an alternate, but do you have any comments about how we should define?
Oops, what happened?
I'll be right there. Just unmuted myself. I don't have any questions directly to that. I think everybody's addressed that, but I do have another one that I'll either bring up now or later, depending on how you decide the discussion is going to go.
We lose Chuck?
No,
He's muted
we
himself.
lost Chuck's mute, his audio.
Oh. I don't even see Chuck.
All right, here I am. Do you see me? You don't see me?
Yes.
Okay.
We
see
do,
me.
yes.
All right, I just want to make one comment about the neighborhood. Because I see Donna McNichol cites a Supreme Judicial Court case here. And one of the neighborhoods that the Supreme Judicial Court found as a neighborhood was Boston Back Bay. And since I grew up in Boston, Suffolk County, and part of the time in Boston itself, and I quite frequently went to Boston Back Bay, worked there and hung out there. And I can say this, it's a lot more houses than all of the Lake Wyola times probably 10. It's a very wide area with many houses, and some of these houses with a 2, 3, 4.
Oh,
See, we keep losing
Chuck.
Chuck.
Chuck, we just lost you.
And Herb, you didn't get to even ask your question. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, I didn't know if my question, which does not relate to neighborhood directly, but relates, I think, to a more basic question about the rulings about the section 6 in the
Go ahead.
state law.
Go ahead, please
That's
ask the
maybe
question.
another discussion that has, not to do with neighborhood. It has to do.
So let's finish the neighborhood and then we can move on to your
Yeah.
question.
Okay, then we'll go there. Okay. Does anyone else want to comment on offering a definition of neighborhood. I will say this, it's likely the entire Lake District, but it's certainly a big chunk of all of Lake Drive. I don't have any doubt about that. I don't know how it could be seen any other way, but and I don't think it's an immediate neighborhood. I think it's the neighborhood. The statute would have said the immediate neighborhood. Certainly all of the abutters are within the neighborhood, and I think Lake Drive is within the neighborhood. Go ahead, Jeff.
I mean, I can partially, I think, agree with what Attorney McNichol said about the west side, because the neighborhood certainly extends up the hill. Those people are affected, the ones behind. And Lake Drive is a continuous route that's passed and repassed every day by the people on it. I don't know if I'd go to the north side of the lake. I'm not sure I'd go all the way across the lake. There are, I think the Back Bay is a little bit crazy. You ask the people in the Back Bay whether they think the whole thing is their neighborhood. That would be, I don't think any person that actually lived there would say that, but so neighborhood can be expanded so that it functionally makes just about any project de minimis, because there's just so much of a denominator out there. So I'm a little leery of going beyond that west side. I would be kind of receptive to thinking about the west side, though.
Okay, Donna, go ahead, Donna.
Well, I was just going to say, I think Jeff's wrong about saying that it can be expanded so that any project's de minimis. I mean, I think that's the point of using the word neighborhood, is you can't expand indefinitely. I think you just have to have a concept, as the case law says, about identifiable by its history, geography, where people generally are known to each other. I mean, those are the components of what makes up a neighborhood. And when you lose those components, you lose geography, you lose history, you lose where people are known to each other, you lose social activities, then you're beyond a neighborhood. So it can't be expanded indefinitely. It really is a concept. But the question is, for your purposes, is where do you feel that concept is in this particular case? And Jeff thinks it's at least the west side of the lake. I think it's certainly at least the west side of the lake. And if you all want to have a discussion about whether you think it's more or not, that's really the discussion. But I don't think it's fair to say it can be expended just indefinitely. Nobody wants to expand it indefinitely. That's not what was proposed here. The question is it the Lake District or just the west side of the lake, or something in between? That's, there's no expansion indefinitely. Nobody suggested that.
Go ahead, Jared.
Question. As I understand it, the lake was created by man. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Well,
The lake,
about a third of the lake was an original lake, and then the dam was built and it was flooded. Maybe half the lake was the original
so
lake.
it created a shore.
Right.
Yep.
So the damming of the lake created a new shore.
Right. That's
I would
exactly.
consider that shore to be the new neighborhood. And I do agree that the Back Bay that was also created by filling, because it was not there originally,
Right.
is considered all one neighborhood because it was created as such. So if we go back to the beginning, I think we have to consider the entire lake the neighborhood.
I mean, I tend to agree. I mean, the Back Bay by area, at least the official area that's listed is 340 acres, and so the Lake Wyola, I think we just lost Chuck again. Let's wait till he arrives back. But the Lake Wyola is what, 128 acres plus the surrounds, and the surrounds are less than the interior. So I mean, I agree with Herb. I mean, regardless of sort of, I think the rulings that were sent along seemed clear on, where we have to go with the definition of a neighborhood. And I think that I think that for me, as I was interpreting, the excellent analyses sent along by others, along with the rulings that were sent, I came to the same conclusion. I mean, because I think there's also sort of like there's the layperson's view of it, which is that when I moved to Shutesbury and I went to Lake Wyola for the first time, I said, this is a nice neighborhood. And I sort of, and you view it as the whole. And so I sort of think that based on the definitions we've seen, based on, what an outsider would come in and sort of judge to be it. And I think what people who live there and are members of a joint association would say is that it's a shared neighborhood. And so we sort of have to be looking at the whole thing.
Hello,
Okay.
can I say
Yeah.
something?
Yeah, who's that? Who's that?
This is Joe Salvador.
Where are you? Okay, are you on phone or do I see you?
I have it, but I don't know if as long as you can hear me, that's okay.
Go ahead. Okay, your name is what?
My name
Joseph
is Joe
Salvador?
I live on the
Okay,
lake.
go ahead.
And I've been part of the Road Association, Lake Association. And when we have parties at the association, we invite the entire lake. When we work on the roads, we work as a team. Some people from the north side, some people from the south, the west, and we do one whole road one day, we do another road the next day, but we work as a family around the lake. We rely on everybody around the lake, especially being out here, as everybody knows, you're not around the store. So we try to help each other out. So I think that should come into play because to us, it's not the west side or the east side. It's like we're all part of the same family.
How about applicants? Do you have anything to say? I mean, I know, I think Megan, your family's lived there for generations, if I understand it. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up on the only thing I would add, I agree with all the comments, but I mean, it's a lake and I grew up physically on the water, paddling, kayaks, canoes, whatever. And my friends were all around the lake and, I would go here, there, everywhere. And the benefit as a child is that it's a small lake and your parents can see you still. So, I mean, I would say that I saw no difference between any side of the lake and was able to take advantage of having friends all around. And I can probably tell you who's lived in every single cottage on that lake. So, I mean, it's a very tight knit community. And I concur that I think the Lake District should be deemed to be the neighborhood.
David Holmes, do you have any comments about what the neighborhood is?
Sure, I do. Yes.
Go ahead.
I don't know how you can settle this when do you aggregate the impact over different sections of the lake? Because obviously the impact is different the closer to the house that you get. I mean, it's a significant impact to my yard and my neighbor yard, everybody who's in the second row, basically, of this neighborhood, because we're talking about a house that's built lakeside. I know that you have to make your definitions and everything, but we all know what we're talking about here. We're talking about a house on the lake, the neighborhood, and the great impact of these houses on the lake going taller is to the second row of houses and the third row, if there is one. That's the neighborhood. That's the part that's impacted. Any place else you go, 3-4 houses in any direction across the lake, there's zero impact. So I don't know why you're splitting hairs about how to define the neighborhood, other than, as Jeff said, the larger you make it, the more you water down the concept that it has a significant impact.
I mean, I do think it's very important that we look at this because, I mean, I'm taking a look at, I just pulled up the plans for Lake Wyola for when this neighborhood was subdivided, right? And it was that whole side of the lake that they subdivided in one full thing. It was in 1938, they did the whole thing.
But what difference does that make?
Well, because the law doesn't say immediate neighborhood. The law says neighborhood, and neighborhood, you have to go by the definition from the court rulings. You can't go by, the 5 immediate houses that are most impacted.
Right, so the larger that you decide you're going to define the neighborhood, the more permission it gives you to greatly impact the people who are in a smaller definition of the neighborhood. The people who are in directly across the street from these houses is going to be a major impact. And the only way that you can dilute that so that to basically cover your ass is to define the neighborhood larger.
Okay.
That's what I feel like you're doing.
All right, I want to hear from town council. We're trying to see if we can come to a consensus, but town council, please speak.
Jeff, I think that's a really important point. And I think that it's, you come at it from the side you're coming from, and then I think you come at it from the other side. I think the reason the legislation uses the word neighborhood is to try and bring in not only the impact to the immediate houses, but then purposely to dilute that sum, but to only dilute it with the neighborhood rather than diluting it with the entire town. Statute does not say town, and there's lots of cases where in fact the zoning board or the planning board use the word town instead of neighborhood in their decision, and the court sent it back and so said, no, that's too big. That's not what you're looking at. That's not what you're defining. So I think your point is exactly right, except that it's only half the point. The statute says neighborhood, so that you not only consider the effect on the houses around, but then you also consider how it affects a larger area. And that's how you ultimately determine whether it's detrimental or not to the neighborhood. You don't determine whether it's detrimental to the 5 houses around it, but you don't determine whether it's detrimental to the town either. You find that middle ground where you're looking at more than the immediate houses, but not such a big area that it's totally diluted.
Can
I
I
wanna-
add one more point, please?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
And then I'll
David.
basically be finished.
Go ahead, David.
I have, in that case, I hear what you're saying, but in that case, I would like to submit that you consider that when you're talking about the impact to the neighborhood in a larger sense, and I know that a lot of time you've argued that this is beyond your scope, but in a larger sense, every house that gets larger, adds a second story and encroaches, blocks off the lake, is a detriment, I feel, to the entire lake district. Now, where we were talking before about the height of this one house, really just impacts the immediate neighbors, the immediate abutters, and has zero impact. You know, really, the 5 feet on one house is of negligible impact to the lake district or the lake as a whole. But taken as a pattern, which is what you're also considering, because you're looking at precedents, you're looking at patterns, you're going to have more, I know that you're going to have more houses asking for this exact same zoning, you know, what do you call it? They're going to be special permits to put other large, to make other houses 2 stories. So the impact may be small, more difficult to define, but I would like you to consider that allowing houses to go from 1 story to 2 stories, one at a time, is going to have a great negative impact on the greater neighborhood over time. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Jeff, go ahead.
I have something I want to say.
Who's that? Joseph? Joseph?
I just want to let
Go
you know.
ahead, Joe. Go ahead, Joe. Then I want to hear from Jeff.
I
Go ahead.
also own a house on King Road directly behind that property up on the hill. And I have no problem with it.
Okay. Jeff Lacy, go ahead.
I'm actually 2 houses up on the hill.
Okay. You're an official abutter in this case, is that correct? You got
Yeah,
notice?
I'm within probably the 200 yards of it,
Yeah, you're within the 300 feet, so.
or whatever the
Okay,
distance is.
Yeah, it's 300 feet. Jeff Lacy, go ahead.
I, you know, I can think of an expanded neighborhood. I kind of think of it a little more organically. There was some verbiage about, you know, people who know each other, people who interact with each other, you know, the immediate friends and whatnot that live around. But the first and primary neighbors, I would think, are the parties in interest, the ones who are abutters or abutters to abutters within 300 feet. Those are all the people that snuggle right up to a project and that are a reasonable distance right around it. So I would certainly say that is you know, almost a super neighborhood, and it can certainly be extended out into a neighborhood that perhaps dissipates. But I would take into consideration what's going on in that immediate area, the area of people who have under the law gotten notice of a project because they're deemed to be important to a project, important to know about the hearings and come in and testify. To me, that means something. When those people come in and talk, that means something.
I guess my concern is that, you know, the law really pretty distinctly says, you know, more detrimental to the neighborhood, and it doesn't say the 300-foot abutters list. It doesn't say, you know, the people have to be notified. It's really, you know, I do think it's a little more than that. You know, and I sort of go back to sort of the creation of this, right? You know, in 1938, you can pull up the plans on the you know, in the Register of Deeds, and this was created as one entity. It is one thing. You know, all of the lots on that side of the lake were subdivided out at the exact same moment, and it just, I think that it's, I just don't see, you know, any way that, you know, it doesn't feel
Okay.
to me. Oh, sorry.
Well, no, I want to wait till you're done, but as a planner, I want to talk about other very large projects I'm aware of.
Of course, and I recognize that there are other large projects, but this is not a large project. I mean, this is what there can't be more than what 75 or 100 acres there on that side of the lake. You know, this is but so I guess the law in the cases seem pretty clear that this goes beyond the abutters list and really is about, is the project more substantially detrimental to the neighborhood? And the neighborhood, the definition of neighborhood has to be what's in the court cases, and it has to be in sort of, you know, what other people around would see that. I mean, I think if we were going to, you know, if you went to go see a realtor or something and they were taking you to a place in Lake Wyola and they took you, you know, 450 feet apart, they wouldn't say they were taking you to a different neighborhood, right? You know, they'd be taking you a couple of houses on the lake in the same neighborhood.
Well, Andy,
Go ahead, Jeff.
was going to say, there are many projects in real estate development that have been, you know, created as a planned unit development or a large subdivision or you know, a small community or an intentional community that have hundreds of houses on them, like Lake Wyola does, and they cover an extensive area of land. But that doesn't mean the whole thing is going to be a neighborhood. I mean, neighborhoods kind of break down organically due to you know, many sociological features and features of proximity and contact, and you know, where people spend most of their time, what's important to them. You know, is the west side of the lake really that important to somebody over on Shore Drive that can't even see it? I don't think so.
Well, but they can see it. You know,
some of them can.
And they maintain a joint association. They maintain the road maintenance together. You know, I don't think the you know, the beaches are association beaches, all held in joint ownership. I mean, it's, yeah.
They try to maintain an association. Not everybody is participating in that.
All right, I think we're, go ahead, Attorney Martin, go ahead.
Yes, I mean, the board has a legal obligation to apply the law and the statutes to this application. And it doesn't give this board the ability or authority to make up a unique definition of neighborhood. The case law, as Attorney McNichols pointed, as the Humble Oil case as an example, it gives you tools to look at. And some of the tools that they look at are exactly what Mr. Berg has been identifying, and my clients have been identifying. They look at the physical or natural boundaries of the neighborhood. In this case, it's the lake. They look at whether or not it's in a zoning district. In this case, it's in the Lake Wyola district. They look at whether or not it's an electoral district. If you had an area where there was a city council that was representing a certain district. The Back Bay has its own neighborhood council. I looked it up. Despite how large it is, it has a neighborhood council. And here in Springfield, we have the neighborhood councils, South End, North End, 16 acres. Those are neighborhood councils. The association serves as that council. But this is the last analysis that the board has to do, whether it's detrimental to the neighborhood. And maybe you need to come to, maybe you determine that you have to decide on what's a neighborhood first. But there are other issues and steps that need to be followed through in order to reach that step. You need to follow the law, and it's not 3 houses around it. It's not 5. It's not my house is impacted, but somebody else's isn't. It's the neighborhood, and there's plenty of guidance for it. And if you are going to make a determination that it's substantially detrimental to the neighborhood, you have to define what the neighborhood is. I can almost assure you, and I think Attorney McNichols said in her memo, that if it's something very constraining, then the court's going to overturn it. You're wasting your time and going in there. We need to keep moving on, I think.
Yeah,
I still have a question.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And it actually gets to the point that you're making, Mr. Martin. And it's the point about the law. We would all agree that Section 6 is part of the general law.
Yep.
I think, right? I mean,
Yes.
that's my assumption. The thing that I got that was Section 6 to read, I read it, and in the first paragraph, I would refer you to where it says extension or alterations, talking about alterations now, shall not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming use. It doesn't say structure.
It does now.
Well, I'll let Attorney McNichol answer that because she's town council.
Yeah, the case law
Okay.
has added structure to that.
Yeah, they changed.
Okay, sorry. That was my only point, is that I looked at this, I said, we're
That's a
talking
great
about
point,
use.
and there was a whole Supreme Judicial Court that dealt with that point. It's
Okay.
a great point, and they
The rest-
added structure.
I rest my question because in our bylaw, it says structure and use. Okay, thank you.
But I like your thinking, and if if it was just, wouldn't be here, and we could just all go home because it's no change in use. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm the new kid on the block.
All right. Any final comments? By trying to define, for me, it's the whole Lake District. It's at the very least, it's half the lake area, but I don't know. I've been 40 years in Shutesbury. I go to Lake Wyola sometimes. I see it as one neighborhood. That's how I see it. I would say the whole Lake District, but it's certainly at least 50% of the Lake District, without any question.
Chuck,
Yeah. Go ahead.
I just have to add that those of us who don't live there may be more inclined to feel that way because we're not intimately familiar with the different areas and the different sub neighborhoods that are out there, and we may just tend to simplify and think of the whole thing as one thing and call it a neighborhood.
Well, part of the reason I think, one second, part of the reason I think that is because 25 years on this board, the Lake Wyola Association has come before us many, many times. The Lake Wyola, I've gone to almost all the town meetings too. The Lake Wyola Association comes to the town meetings as an association, comes to this board, comes to the planning board. You know, so they consider themselves a group, an association, and they live in close proximity. It's not like the Quabbin Reservoir. It's quite more compressed than the Quabbin Reservoir in terms of geography. They share lots of town beaches and ramps to go in, and they're all over the place as I see them when I take my drives and my walks around the lake. I think it is one district. Back Bay is this much smaller is too, in my opinion. I'm sure the assessors also tax them at the same rate, the same kind of per acre rate. So that, I mean, I think that it's fair to say it's a neighborhood. I think it is, but at the very least, it's at least half of it. I don't know. It's got to be at least some 180 degrees short of it. I can't imagine it would be smaller than that. And that's my view. Andy, go ahead.
Jack, I think you have aptly made one that's perfect. I have nothing to add to that, and I don't want to belabor it.
Okay, all right. So we've got some people looking at it as a very small immediate area, others looking at it as the whole, others halfway in between. But I think it's certainly smaller than that immediate area. I think we've done whatever we can to try to persuade each other. Let's go on to some other points. Go ahead.
Does Mr. Martin have a comment?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Attorney Martin.
Point of order to your town council. Would it be advisable for the board to vote on the definition of neighborhood so that they can have a definition, a uniform definition that the board has adopted in making their analysis?
I certainly think that if the chair would like to put that issue to bed.
Yeah, let's do it, because otherwise we're going to be here for another 6 meetings. Yes, I'd like to put it to bed. We have varying, as to the voting members, we have varying thoughts. Myself, again, I'm gonna say the entire Lake District, at the very least, 180 degrees around the lake from that house. That's the very least, but I think it's really the whole, because I think it's one community for all the reasons I said. So that's what I would vote, the entire district. Andy?
Are you making a motion
to
define the Lake District as the neighborhood as the Lake Wyola district?
We lost Chuck again.
I have faith he will return.
I do too.
Prodigal chair.
There
he comes, almost.
Here I am. I keep getting disconnected and I have no idea why. I'm not touching anything. I'm away from my computer. Let me get my iPhone away from it. Maybe that's interfering. I'm not sure what's going on. Go ahead, Andy.
Oh, so I guess are you making a motion to define the neighborhood as the Lake Wyola zoning district?
I am.
I will second that motion.
Okay. Jeff, any comments?
I would not go so far.
What would you go? How far would you go, Jeff?
I would say it would include a subset of the west side.
Are you going at least 180 degrees around the lake, or that even less than that? Let me ask you that.
Well, there are pretty much only certain ways you can get to the west side, and it's a dead end at the end. You can't drive around the lake from there. Partially, the dead end factor cuts it off from the rest of the lake. But I would say down near where Attorney McNichol lives, all the way to the end, and then back. And I guess the neighborhood would probably dissipate a bit out towards the fringes, but it would be confined to that west side.
Okay, well.
Attorney McNichol?
Yeah, just to correct, you can drive around the neighborhood. If you go to the very end of Lake Drive, you can't, but you can go up Pine Hill and go out on Locks Pond and drive all the way around the lake from Locks Pond to the Shore Road over there to North Leverett Road. So you can in fact circle the entire lake in a vehicle.
Yeah.
So I just want that to be clear from the record.
Yeah. All I was referring to is if you're going down along the lake.
No, I know what you were saying, but I just want.
You can't get around the back end.
Yeah, and half a year, a lot of us have boats. I had a boat for 15 years. I often took it at Lake Wyosa. You can just drive across the lake in a matter of a few minutes, 1 minute, in fact, usually. I mean, all right,
So
go ahead.
there's a motion pending. There's a
Go
motion
ahead.
pending, Mr. Chairman.
So I would like to.
Well, I'm just saying there's a motion.
Right. So I'd like to
We're having
call.
discussion.
All right, I have to call a vote. Can we
Let's
call
call,
a vote?
I,
at this
I
time, or-
agree. We should, yes, I believe we've seconded and I think we should call the vote.
Okay, so all in favor, well, I'll say, Andy Bird, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye, that it's the entire district?
Yes, that's the entire
list.
district.
Okay, Jeff Lacy, how do you vote?
Nay.
Nay, that it's not the entire district. I vote that it is the entire Lake District. At the very least 180 degrees of the Lake District. So I think we're 180 degrees to the entire whole. It's not just that immediate area. Okay, let's.
Chuck, that wasn't your motion. You can't keep changing.
Well, my motion was the entire lake.
Yes.
And that's my vote, the entire lake.
The 180
Okay.
degrees would be more like what I proposed.
Well, I'm not sure you're even saying that, but it would be nice if you were.
Well, no, it's basically Lake Drive and everything in back of it.
No,
I'm saying the entire Lake District. I just think it's one neighborhood.
And I think the motion has carried. So I mean, it seems like we have voted and it passed.
Okay, all right. Let's move on. I just want to get this moving. Looking at these cases, looking at the Willett case, looking at the Balata case, and for me, and I think the statute is clear. I think that these cases are clear insofar from 1975 and on, when the second except clause came into being, that we would have to make some very specific findings as to whether or not this addition, this alteration of the existing property encroaches any further. And I don't see, for myself, I don't see how it further encroaches. It certainly doesn't further encroach on the sideline as to the borders. It certainly doesn't encroach as to the front line, as to the rail line, as to the lakeside. I don't see how it encroaches. It doesn't encroach on the skyline. The skyline, as you know, the setback in the sky is 28 feet. So it doesn't further encroach on any setbacks on the sky on either of the sides, in the front or the back. So I don't think there's a further encroachment, an increasing encroachment, or any other term you want to put on it. I don't think it does. And I want to get to that discussion right now, because it's my opinion that if it doesn't, the real question, I think Balanta said this, the question really isn't special permit versus the finding, special permit versus building permit. And I think the case law says that exactly, but I don't want to go there. I'd rather make a specific finding, but I don't see any further encroachment. I don't see any intensification of the encroachment on any side or up in the air. So what's your comment on that? I only see Andy right now. Then I'll hear from you, Jeff. Go ahead.
Oh, I guess, my belief also goes along with yours, Chuck. I don't see that this is a further encroachment on what currently exists, from any, at least from the standpoint of any of the setbacks, and at least from my reading of the cases shown to me. So I agree with your analysis.
Okay, Jeff, you want to comment?
It doesn't have to be a further encroachment.
Okay, well, I think this, okay, then I'm going to ask town council and Jim Martin to comment on that. That's how I read it, but go ahead, town council.
I think I agree with Jeff here.
Okay, go ahead. Enlighten us.
This discussion, I think the bylaw, the way it's written, saying that if the roof line increases, that in fact a special permit's required.
Well,
I
I'm
know
not,
Donna
I'm
says.
not arguing about that, Donna. I'm not
I-
arguing about that. I just want to know if there's a further encroachment.
That's the issue, Chuck. You can't just go to the case law. The bylaw says if you increase the line, the roof, increase the roof height above where it is with this current structure, that a special permit's required. So I don't know that you, as I said in my memo, I don't really know that you even have to have a discussion around increasing or intensifying the nonconformity. Your bylaw says if you increase the roof line, you need a special permit. So I don't think a discussion about whether it should be a building permit or a special permit.
I'm not asking for that discussion, but what I'm saying is the bylaw, as I read it, is in conflict with the statute and in conflict with the case law that interprets the statute. Your point is well taken, Donna. I have no objection to your point, nor do I have an objection.
And I understand what you're saying, because I don't necessarily disagree, but you have to go by your bylaw.
Well, I don't think so. If there's a conflict between the bylaw and the statute trumps it. If there's a war between the statute and the bylaw, the statute trumps it, and the case law, especially as defined by the Supreme Court, decides it. So, I mean, I think that's what the cases are actually saying. If you don't find a further encroachment, an intensification, if you don't find that, whether we call it a special permit or a permit, and I'll concede, because the bylaw says what it says, we'll call it a special permit. I have no problem with that. You know, I'm looking in a position like, really, if we went to the building inspector and the building inspector denied it, and I would probably want to overturn the building inspector, because I'd say, yeah, he can cite the statute. I mean, the bylaw, I'd say, well, I'm citing the statute in the case law that interprets the statute.
Well, and I think you can even have a discussion about, I don't think any nonconformities increased.
Yeah,
I
well,
think
that's it. If there's no non-conforming increase, don't we have an obligation to issue the special permit? Go ahead, Jeff.
Goldhurst says intensify, right? So then the question becomes, if there's no nonconformity increase, does that necessarily automatically mean that there's no intensification? And I'm sure Jeff wants to horn in on that. And then, as I told you, I think the cases are conflicting. And I think the truth of the matter is that SJC would take the cases, would take your bylaw, and would basically say, I agree that a special permit's required. The question is the special, are you almost required to give the special permit? Does Bellotta and all of the case law basically take away some of the discretion of the ZBA, particularly when it's a single two-family? Does the second accept clause, even with your bylaw, even with some of the cases that seem to suggest that you have to have a special permit, does it take away some of the discretion of the ZBA as to whether you grant the special permit or not?
And I think it does. Jeff, go ahead.
Oh, my point was earlier on, there was some discussion about making that first sort of determination about whether the nonconformity was, I can never think of the original word. Increased, which has become added to or intensified. A number of years ago, many zoning bylaws around the state went and incorporated these diagrams. These were done by Don Schmidt, I believe, from the DHCD. And we adopted these as well. And what they do is sort of pre-figure out how you're going to go with some of these, some of these decisions in these different scenarios. So it appears to me that to save you that first analysis, because you've already made it and put it in your bylaw. And in this case, it just says, if you're going to extend within the footprint and you're going to increase height above what there was there, you need to go to the special permit and get a finding.
But Jeff, where in the diagrams is that example? Because I couldn't find it. Which of those, I looked through those and I couldn't find an example where all you did was go up.
It's the last picture here, and it says, any alteration that increases the overall height but does not encroach upon any setback.
And then it says,
Oh, wait a
the
minute.
last
No, no,
sentence
no.
says,
No,
the last sentence says, this alteration is permitted by right. That's what it says.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
exactly the one I was looking at.
Okay, don't
Jeff.
get too excited. I quoted the wrong one.
Well, but that is an
Let me
alteration that
find you the
increases
right
the
one.
height but does not encroach on a setback. And it says, this alteration is permitted by right. That's what it says. That's the one I circled. That's the one I think is
Chuck,
most
it does,
applicable.
it does encroach on a setback.
Okay,
That side wall is gonna go up encroaching on a setback. The setback extends up to heaven.
now,
And
wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. We're talking about the footprint. It's further away
No,
from the footprint.
Unless it moves out beyond the footprint, it does not encroach. It does not encroach.
So this is the one I looked at, Jeff. I used these diagrams, and I want to read it into the record. It's on page 23 of our bylaw, and it's the bylaw that was amended May 4th, 2019, which is the most recent bylaw approved by the Attorney General. And it says, an alteration that increases the overall height, but does not encroach upon any setback. This example proposes to add a second floor to the portion of a structure that does not encroach upon any setbacks. This alteration is permitted by right. And I don't think you can fairly and reasonably argue that when it goes above where it is, that's closer, because I say it's further away from any footprint. And I think that's how you have to look at it. If it extended out, if there were two decks on each side extending out, I would agree with you, Jeff, but that's not what it is.
no, Chuck, it says, this example proposes to add a second floor to the portion of the structure that does not encroach upon any setbacks.
Mm-hmm.
They are adding a second floor to portions of the structure which encroach upon side setbacks.
Weird.
This is not the right example on both sides. Both of those sides.
How does it encroach? Tell me how it encroaches, further encroaches.
The side setback is 15 feet, and I think they may have 8 feet.
But aren't we talking about, I understand that part of it, but aren't we talking about further encroaches on the existing structure?
Doesn't say further encroach. It just says encroach.
But I'm looking at the case law of section 6, and I'm looking at how the SJC interprets it. What example do you want to use, Jeff? Let's get there. What example do you want to use?
All right.
So Mr. Chairman, there are, I believe that Mr. Lacy is referring to a different illustration than you are.
Second.
Okay, fair enough. So that's what I want to know. Which one are you looking at, Jeff? Because you pointed to this one.
I'm looking at this one. Nobody can see it. This one
What
right
page
down
is it?
here, second for last, page
You need-
27, page 27.
You need
That's
to
the
go
one
to.
Chuck just read.
No,
That's what I just read. That's what I just read, Jeff. That's exactly what I just read.
No,
They're the one right above the one you just read.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
The last one, the next one.
Okay, so go ahead. Comment on
Let me
that.
read it for all the people who don't have it.
Okay, great.
An alteration that increases the overall height of the structure. This example proposes to add a second floor to a structure that encroaches upon the front setback. Here it would be side setbacks. Since the height of the proposed addition within the side setback is greater than the height of the existing structure, this alteration requires a special permit.
But Mr. Lacy, if I may, you need to go to the next illustration. And that illustration says an alteration that increases the overall height, but does not encroach upon any setback. This example proposes to add a second floor to a portion of a structure that does not encroach upon any setbacks. This alteration is permitted by right. The footprint of the building is grandfathered in. And so this example allows you.
No sale on that one.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
If I may just speak a second, I
Yes, please.
would agree with Jeff on this. Encroach
Okay.
is encroach.
Okay, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So while you have that page up, can I do this? Tomorrow, can I go get a building permit to go up 28 feet in the middle 10 feet of my lot? Because the last picture says I can do that by right. And then I put that up and then I complete that. Then I go back and I get a special permit that I'm allowed to do by right for the picture right above that, because I've now got where I'm not within the setbacks and I'm up, I have that 28 feet. Now I go get a building permit to go out to where my 8 feet in from the lot lines are, because I'm not gonna go higher than the 28 feet that I was allowed to do by right in the first place. So it looks like I can just do this in 2 steps and avoid all this for ZBA. And then I can go up another 1.5 feet from where I'm asking.
I think Jeff Lacy, I lost about a minute of it, but I think Jeff Lacy would say no, right, Jeff? Is that what you already said no, maybe, when I was,
No, because
oh,
that's within the side setback. So you can go up 28 feet within the 15-foot side setbacks.
So that's 10 feet, the middle 10 feet of the house, I can go up 28 feet by right, according to the bottom picture
And
tomorrow.
then that resets the maximum height of the structure. And then you're then permitted to put on dormers as of right.
So I can do this in 2 steps.
That's known in the parlance as segmentation, and there are certain impediments to segmenting a project.
Where are they in the bylaw?
Not positive whether you have it figured out
Jeff,
here or not.
that's not segmentation. That's not segmentation. Segmentation has to do with much larger projects. You know, they could, in fact, I don't see why they couldn't legally do that. I'm not going to render that specific opinion because I want to think about it.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of the whole point of the second accept clause. The second accept clause doesn't require a variance, even though you can encroach on setbacks further. The second accept clause, as you and I both know, put your finger on the scale of granting these permits because they're single and 2 families. And I think that exactly what they're saying right now is all part of that legislative history and reasoning around why you don't need a variance for these, why the special permits are much more less discretionary than they would be for a big commercial project or anything of that nature. And I think that's all part of it. But I don't think that would be considered a segmented project, because I think a segmented project puts you more in kin with much larger concepts than just doing additions to your single family home.
It would be mini segmentation of the micro scale, but 2 parts.
Well, it says by right.
I think you can do it. I think you can do segmentation on single family homes if it says by right.
So you could build a cupola and be okay.
Yeah, I can go up 28 feet tomorrow in the middle. And then once that project is done, by right, I can go up to as long as I don't go any higher than that 28 feet. So maybe that's the thing. And I get another 1.5 feet and I don't have to, if we can go that route, and then
yeah,
I win a lot easier. I don't have to pay legal fees and have time of years to appeal this thing. And then I get more than I asked for originally.
yeah, I mean, it's a thought, but obviously I'd rather just approve. I would prefer to go down the route that we find, because I think we should find, I think the evidence is overwhelming that we should find that there's not a more of a substantial detriment than the existing structure. Now, I don't know if Jeff's willing to go that far, but I would rather do that and just get it over with, get on with this, rather than go through this hoop and that hoop and then other hoop. And
Well, are we still in the hearing phase here, or are
we're still, yes, we are, but go ahead, Jeff. We're
Well,
trying to find a solution, and we can find solutions
all right.
in an open meeting. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to propose a solution, please do.
No. Well, I already have proposed a solution. And
No, but in the meeting, in the public meeting.
Oh, I proposed it during the last meeting, and it was that either the height or the bulk could be dealt with in some way. My problems are both with the effects of the height and the bulk together. take away the height or take away the bulk, and it might be less detrimental project. So I put that out there last meeting, and it wasn't much interest. I think before we close the hearing, I ought to just show these photographs to the board.
Go ahead, let's do that. Go ahead.
Do that? Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Somebody will have to give me sharing privileges.
Go ahead, Tessa.
Tessa, you're muted.
Unmute.
And I'll see if I can do this. Okay. Let's see which picture I want. Okay, I took all these pictures today. Can everyone still hear me?
I hear you.
Okay. This
Oh, good.
the
Pictures aren't up, Jeff.
excuse me?
The pictures aren't up.
I don't see the pictures.
Well, I haven't been given sharing privileges yet then.
Tessa, you
Pictures
think-
are up.
Tessa, you doing that?
Oh, well, wait a minute. No, I have to do something. Hold on. Share screen. Let me do it. Okay, here's one. Okay.
Okay,
The house with the red roof is the one we're talking about.
yeah,
And can you see my cursor?
yeah,
This is the house. So the red house is in the middle, and there's a lower house to the north and to the south. This is the house to the north.
mhm,
I've heard that there's 8 feet of setback that exists here.
mhm.
So it's a little hard to believe. If you divide it down the middle, it's less than 8 feet. So it must be over here somewhere. The actual property line, if
It's on the other side of the tree near your cursor.
okay.
Yeah, we
so-
know where it is. This is the Humphus family. That's our house. That's our
Hi there.
cottage.
Okay,
It
so,
goes from that wall to that other tree behind the big pine tree. Pretty
Yes.
much, give or take a couple inches.
okay, so it's right over here. So this is 8 feet. So you probably have about 10 altogether.
Well, that's a temporary shed adjacent to the,
And that's not my property.
that's
Yeah,
that's a plastic shed.
Well, I'm just talking about the distance between this
Okay.
building, and this building. And our zoning says you're supposed to have 30 between
No,
here.
50,
Yeah, but this is like Waiola.
30,
This is a little less
30
different,
oh,
Jeff.
well,
Aren't I grandfathered into this?
Yeah, we are.
yes.
folks, you know, people
Go ahead,
keep
Jeff.
talking about the sanctity of the 28 feet. We also have side lot standards of 15 feet for each property, which means there should be 30 feet between here. But there isn't.
Just want to point
That's
out
for new
that
construction, not for the existing. When that property was built, that was conforming.
Yes.
It's not now. That's why we're here.
Sure.
So we should
let me get
destroy
to-
half the cottages on the lake.
Okay, here's the other side. Here's the south side. And here there appears to be more space.
I
I
don't
guess,
see it, Jeff. I don't see it, Jeff.
okay.
Jeff, you have to stop sharing and reshare
Okay,
to change the picture.
okay. Stop share. Reshare. Sorry, folks. Here we go. I'll do that each time now. Okay, here's the other side, the south side. I presume this fence is the property line?
Pretty close.
Okay, so it looks like maybe, I don't know, 6 feet here, maybe 8 feet here, or
It's more than that.
We've got about 8 feet on either side. And we had it surveyed and
maybe.
we did all that for Board of Health and Conservation Commission, and it was pretty much 8 feet, give or take, 8.5 feet, give or take a few inches. The house is cocked a little on the lot, but overall it's about little over 8 feet, 8.5 feet to each side of the lot line.
Well, again, you consider the relationship of these houses to one another, and there should be 30 feet in between them if they met the standards.
We should also have 250 feet of frontage too, according to that. But in 1938, this was what it is.
you know, 2.25 acre lot size too.
So here we go to the north, and
We don't have it, Jeff. We don't have
Oh,
it.
sorry, I did it again.
I must have to go into the settings, but I can't right now.
Okay, here's to the north. Subject house is to the right of the blue house, and this is the next one over. And things start spacing out a little better here. This looks to be maybe 15, 20 feet or so between these. So there's a little more space, a little more light, a little more air, a little more view of the lake, easier to see through. And then if you go to the,
I mean, you really should have put a scale on these because you're literally talking about a 2-foot difference.
well, I would have to enter these properties, and I couldn't do that today without, I would have had to go on the property, and I was reluctant to do that. And this is what you have. This is an access way, apparently a lake access way, but this is the kind of spacing you've got to the south. So the acute spacing problem really involves these three houses. And I just wanted people to realize that spacing is different around the lake. The project we did way across the lake here on shore, the spacing was entirely different. The houses were much farther apart.
No, it's not farther apart there. It's adjacent to an association beach, which it was encroaching upon. It's not apples to apples if you're next to a beach. That's an unfair assumption to make.
No, we're talking about across the lake.
67 Shore Drive is
Right.
adjacent to an association beach, and you keep on claiming there's more space between the houses.
Well,
It's
there
because
is.
it's next to a beach.
That's fine. That's the existing conditions on the ground. The beach actually helps that proposal.
Okay.
So we made decisions over there based on that area and the immediate surrounds and what the impacts were.
I would like to just point out that as for that decision, Jeff, you weren't a voter on that decision. I voted on that decision, and I can speak to my state of mind around that is that I saw that we didn't have much choice in the matter based on the bylaws as I read them and my understanding of it. But I also saw that, I mean, I see the same. I think, as I recall, there was that encroachment problem, and I don't necessarily make a distinction between encroaching on another lot. An encroachment on another lot is an encroachment on another lot, and I don't particularly see the difference.
Well, the difference is that the site is entirely different over here. The abutters are affected differently. They're much higher up. There's great spacing between the houses, much greater spacing than we're talking about now. It's really a different set of factors.
Right, but you're actually setting forth that someone's able to utilize their property to the fuller extent because of an adjacent property.
Okay, all right. Let Jeff finish, and then you can.
We can argue later. So we made different decisions across the lake. And if you go north, past this property, if you start going north of here in this direction, yes, some of the houses have been increased in height, but in general, the spacing on many of these places is more than this, much more spacing than between these three houses. And a great deal of the land up gradient is not developed. So again, there are two different factors to consider there. These houses went up with less impact than these will. That's all I want to say about these pictures.
All right. Let's go back to, so we're done with the pictures. Okay, let's go back to the, all right. Does any of the attorneys want to speak about any of this in terms of the legal issues involved?
Well, I'll say that those photos are completely irrelevant to the analysis that this board has to make. And you're looking at the applicant's property, and you're looking at the law, statute, and bylaws that apply to the applicant's property. If someone has 5 more feet of distance between their two structures, that's irrelevant because they're all non-conforming. And so if that's an attempt to justify why this board has previously granted heights up to 28 feet because they're on another side of the lake or they're bigger houses or whatever, it would not hold up to judicial review. You can't just say your house is on the other side of the lake, your non-conformity is different. It's the standard that the law says you have to do. And folks, keep in mind that in the Bellata case, it says you have to give very specific and identifiable reasons why you are not going to grant this special permit. It's not amorphous, it's not general, it's specific. The court was very sharp with the people who brought these cases who did not have a sound basis under the law. And here, what Mr. Lacy is apparently concerned about is the height going up, because he can't be concerned about the footprint because the footprint is non-conforming, grandfathered in setbacks. And so if it's the height, how are you going to say to a court, we allow 28 feet, our present bylaw allows 28 feet, but we object to a homeowner going up 26.5 feet. The Bellata case said, the first thing you do is you make a determination requiring the permitting authority to identify the particular respect or respects in which the existing structure does not conform to the requirements of the present bylaw. The side yard setbacks don't conform. The height of the current house conforms to the existing bylaw. It's 21 feet, it's 7 feet less. How you can make a finding that that is a change that does not conform to the existing bylaw is inconceivable. So, it's frustrating for my clients who have been like 5 times to this board and the same issues come up. Nobody wants to pay attention to what the law or the statute says. And by the way, just gratuitously, I think your bylaw that you were referring to with the structures is illegal. And under today's interpretation of the case law would not pass.
I would ditto that for sure.
And if they were forced to go to court, they would win that as well. But these folks have done everything they can to be cooperative. They went to the health commission, they went to conservation, they went to the building inspector. He said, you got to go get a special permit. These folks don't live in this world. They did what he said. They're here today to get a special permit. The case law says apply the standards that you're supposed to under the case law and the statute. And there's no basis that I have heard anyone say other than just this very gray amorphous, like, well, it impacts one person's view, or but they haven't said to any degree that's substantial, because it's a substantial standard. And they haven't cited any engineering, any environmental factors, any traffic factors, anything like that. And I expressing frustration on behalf of my clients that it's just going round and round and round. And this board has an obligation to follow the law. Mr. Lacy seems very invested in this. He seems very smart. He seems very knowledgeable, but I have not yet to hear him say how this project doesn't meet the criteria set forth in the Bellata case and its progeny, and they would not be entitled to a special permit. And that's what this has to be stated in the record at this hearing, which is hopefully the final hearing.
So Jeff, you want to state how it's how it encroaches, how it intensifies after reading Bellata, after reading these other cases, after reading the statute?
Yeah.
I would put the bylaw aside. That gets you to have a discussion. That's great.
All right. So I read the Bellata case. I got all excited about it. I was secretly hoping maybe we didn't have the jurisdiction. We could just say we don't. But that's not what the Bellata case says. If you read the Bellata case or Bell Alta, you read the case summary, and it basically says if you're in a situation that's governed by the second except clause in chapter 6, that's where you need to go. And you can't also go into section 10 and require a variance. You're rightfully within the second except clause of 6. And that's what the entire overview said. And then if you go to the end of it, the last words in the case are, they say it even more briefly, that they say, because the governing statute and its interpretive framework do not require a variance here, a municipality's bylaw may not do so. So that's not what I'm saying, that we need a variance. So Bellotta really has,
Nobody's suggesting that. Nobody's suggesting.
No one's talking about it. That's one part of the case, Jeff. You gotta look at the whole case.
That's
The variance is one part of the case. It says a lot more than that, Jeff. You gotta be fair here.
that's the thrust of the case.
Yeah,
And
No, it's not.
That's
No, I mean,
it's a part of the case, but it's not the whole case.
so are we not supposed to look at, despite what's in, and I know there's deference to single and two-family homes. I recognize that, but after reading all these other cases, are we now thinking that we don't make the initial determination as to whether there's been an addition or an intensification of the
We
nonconformity?
do make that, and I'm asking you to say what it is.
Okay,
and could I also add in to say what is substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood? What is
And that's the
substantially more
second
detrimental to
part.
the neighborhood?
well, should I be doing this during the hearing or during the deliberatory phase?
Well, I want to, look at, you say Bellotta just stands for variance. I say it's way beyond that. It does stand for variance issues, but it's way beyond that too. It also talks about the second except clause, and it analyzes the cases and the statute exhaustively and comprehensively. And I don't know why you're not looking at that part of the case, just at the variance. No one's asking for a variance. It's not particularly relevant.
Right.
Maybe relevant to some other case, but it's not relevant to this case. And there's very strong language in Bellotta that talks about the second exception clause and what you do with it and what findings you have to make. And then it gets to the other part of it is substantially more detrimental than the existing structure. So I want to hear both of your analysis on both of those. Go ahead.
Okay, first of all, the intensification of the nonconformity. Right now, the nonconformity is on the side of the structure. And it involves a certain amount of the structure is within the setbacks. What the proposal will do is build more of the structure straight up into the setbacks. There will be more of the structure in the setbacks. Yes, there will, because it's going straight up and it's just going to extend the nonconformity up. So there'll be more of the house within the setbacks. And then instead of a peaked roof, there's going to be dormers that almost turn it into a rectangle. So you've increased the bulk even more within the setbacks. So to me, that is the intensification of the setback.
Do we further encroach? Do we intensify? I don't see it, but go ahead, Jeff.
More of the dwelling within the setback where it's non-conforming. That intensifies the nonconformity to me.
Mr. Lacy,
Okay.
your counsel has already given her opinion that is completely incorrect.
Right, and the case explicitly says dormers and two-car garages and sunrooms. It talks about these as not increasing the nonconformity, and it says it explicitly. And it talks about sunrooms and two-car garages and dormers and a whole bunch of other things. And among others, they said, adding this section, this second floor certainly is in the same area of that, a small or a modest addition. And small and modest addition is what the court is saying, what the statute is suggesting, that you have more liberal construction in terms of more discretion to give the special permits.
Yeah,
It's not as
I
a
mean,
matter of right.
I guess there are sort of just two other little points I want to make here. One, this structure is like what, 1,250 square feet, something like that? This is a small house. This is not a 3,400 square foot house going up where a cottage was. This is a small house with, which is of average size compared to the other houses in the neighborhood. It is not, this is not some giant monstrosity that's going up. I think,
Well, listen, guys, we're not at the point of arguing detrimental to the neighborhood.
Well,
We are at the point of establishing that the nonconformity has been intensified, and it has. And to
I don't
me,
think so.
that gets us
Mr.
on.
Mr.
that
Lacy,
gets
can you
us-
ask,
Hold on.
can you
That
ask your
gets us
comment that question?
on to the finding, which is more of a subjective discussion.
Okay. Well, what do you say about that part of it then? I mean, I don't think there's an intensification. I really don't. But I don't think it's fair to say that there could be, and I don't think the court will say that. I'm not going to guarantee a result. I know you can never do that. But I think it's more likely than not that the court won't find this structure, given this case and this statute, an intensification or a further encroachment. But let's go to the second part, because we've beaten this up enough, I think, Jeff. What's your argument on the second part about the detrimental than the existing, more detrimental, than the existing structure? What's your argument there?
I put this out. I put all these arguments out. Well, most of them out earlier, back in the September meeting. My concerns are the spacings of those buildings in that immediate area, the very close spacings, the minimal side setbacks. I mean, really, about a third of what should be there. That building is already the highest of the three, and enlarging this building and then following that precedent with the other two buildings will create a wall blocking off the lake from the road and from the neighbors across the street. And there are dwellings opposite in this case, whereas other cases around the lake, there aren't dwellings opposite and you can do more. There has been negative testimony given, not just from one person who's followed all of these hearings, but from a number over the period, I think at least 3 or 4.
I don't think that's true.
I
we had-
disagree with that.
That's not true, John. You're just making it up. Jeff, one woman was supporting all the way, and then when she found, she expressed a negative concern that there's going to be an extra window on the house, that they might look into her house.
Right.
Come on, that's so frivolous.
No,
it's
that is
ridiculous.
true. No, that's not. It's
You know,
Jeff is correct.
Yeah.
I know I'm a neighbor. I'm the neighbor. I know the neighbors. Everybody on the other side of the street objects to the project.
Well,
only
go through the
not on the
minutes.
record.
that's not what we've heard.
That's not what we heard, David. You can, the one.
If you
woman
want,
said-
I'd be happy to provide letters.
We've had
It's been
5
5
hearings.
months.
This is
5
ridiculous.
hearings here.
I just want to correct you. You're saying it's just me. It's not just me. I just want to tell you that Jeff
I
is
said there was
right.
another person who was concerned about a window going up on the side
No,
of the house.
that's the person who is next to them, also lakeside. I'm talking about people who are in the second row. Look, when you go to the movie theater and you put on a top hat, it's the people who are right behind you are not going to like it. And that's the way it is. But the people on the other side of the lake object to any houses going higher.
Okay. All right.
I agree with that.
Who's that? Oh,
Who was that?
This is Joe Salver. I agree with that.
Agree
I'm
with
on the
what?
other, I'm up on the hill and the view don't bother me.
So what's your, you agree with what? So in other words, I'm trying to understand your position, Joseph.
I still have no problem with the house going the height it is going.
Okay, so you're not objecting to it, is that right?
Not in the least.
okay.
Okay.
So
I think if anything, living on the lake and living in the town for a while and having lots, any house that can be improved in appearance brings the value of all our properties up. And we do pay a lot of taxes on the lake. We're probably, between all the people on the lake, pay a lot of money on the lake for taxes because they tax us for what we build.
okay. Opened a big nest of hornets there, but But from my recollection, and I believe the minutes will show, there were negative testimony from a number of people who live right there. And there was also supportive testimony given. But unlike some cases I've read where there was no negative testimony and was all favorable, in this case, the testimony has been balanced. 7, other neighborhoods around the lake, still call them neighborhoods because the people who live there probably would, although we don't anymore. Other places around the lake are dissimilar. The north of this site is dissimilar. Houses are spread farther apart, and there's less up gradient looking down on those houses. That's a dissimilar area. 67 Shore Drive across the lake, another one that we did. And I was definitely all over that site at the time. I think I voted on that.
No, you didn't.
Huh?
You did not vote on it, Jeff. We have, it's part of the exhibits.
I was the alternate there, and I was the one who voted on that.
You can see it's in the record, Jeff. You did not vote on it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
But if you look at the circumstances there, I probably would have voted favorably on that one. It's a lot different. It's a lot different.
Fair enough.
And the reason
Fair
I
enough.
brought those things up, because Evan Jones brought up the area to the north on Lake, and someone on your board, you maybe, Chuck, brought up 67 Shore Drive. So I needed to address them. So I've addressed those. And lastly, this being directly on the water will, like many other houses in the lake neighborhood, create visual impacts from across the lake as well. What they're seeing now is a low profile house with probably a lot of vegetation. People from around the lake and across the lake are going to see something else when this is done. So there's eight reasons.
Of those 8 reasons, but as I recall, each of those 8 reasons was when the definition of neighborhood, as we had agreed upon it, was wildly varying. I mean, I think at the time we had talked about houses being 40 feet away, and I think your position was that those houses that were 40 feet away were a different neighborhood. As it relates to the close spacing side of things, I think, many of us had come to the conclusion that we have to rely on this particular project, that we can't be looking at other future projects that may or may not ever happen, that this project, this 5-foot addition to make this a 1,250 square foot house is what is before us, not other future hypotheticals. But I do just want to put out there that most of those arguments made rely on the definition of neighborhood being this surround of houses, which is maybe, 3 houses surrounding, and that beyond that, a lot of them fall apart to say that it's more substantially detrimental to a larger impact, as we've now sort of agreed on the definition of a neighborhood.
Jeff, are you saying there's no benefit to this proposed project? It's all negative? Is there any, I mean, we should be weighing back and forth here. Carefully weighing the benefits of the proposed project in relationship to the existing non-conforming structure. That's what we have to be doing. This is just a complete detriment. Almost that's what you're arguing to me. You're not weighing it. There's no benefit to the neighborhood. Is that what you're saying, Jeff? I just want to understand this.
You asked for my reasoning.
I want to know if there's any benefit to the neighborhood in your opinion at all. Zero and at all. Is there any benefit at all in your opinion? I need to understand that.
I don't know the status of the septic system. That probably will be improved. I suppose that'll be improved. It'll probably get a new paint job. It's definitely not one of the worst looking houses around the lake right now. It's actually a nice little house. It's not like it's falling down. At least it doesn't appear to be falling down from the outside. It's kind of a classic little individual distinct lake cottage with a peaked roof, a peaked red roof, and it's kind of a cute place. I don't believe, I don't know. I'm not going to critique it architecturally, what's been proposed. I think it looks pretty good. Like,
Is there a tax benefit to the town by having this project increase? Is that a benefit? Does the values of the homes increase if there's more of these types of modernization? I think that's a benefit. Is the neighborhood going to be happier with it? I think that most of them will be.
Chuck,
Overwhelmingly,
the property taxes are not a zoning consideration. You know that.
well, I think values. The cases that I read suggest exactly that if it improves the tax base of the town, you could take that into consideration.
Well, that's our assessor's opinion, but that's our assessor's opinion.
Well,
yeah.
So Jeff, are we going to get your
Chair,
vote anyway? Go ahead, counsel. Go ahead, Jim.
Mr. Chairman, I want to put in the record that Mr. Lacy's his reasons for saying that he disagrees with the project, none of them are based on the statute or the case law. Minimum setbacks are the minimum setbacks. These are grandfathered in existing structures, and they are staying with the minimum setbacks. The effect on the neighborhood you've already addressed. This is really nothing more than if, you know, I can tell you that there is, in my judgment, there has been nothing that will stand legal challenge to this. And if Mr. Lacy has made his mind up, that's one thing, but it is disingenuous, for the record, for Mr. Lacy to have said to my clients in private and then repeat it in a public hearing that it's okay to go up to 26.5 feet if you knock out the dormers, and today to say the height is the problem for this. That is clearly in the record. That's irreconcilable. That's disingenuous, and I don't believe that he would be following the law or his counsel's opinion on that. The walls going up do not intensify the setback. That Ms. McNichol said at the beginning of this meeting, that is the correct interpretation. And so there's nothing legal. You are putting these people through just individual preferences and ignoring the law by those reasons. And I want that in the record.
And I do want to have something else in the record, is that
Go
this
ahead.
board has discussed suggesting, in the past we've had both formal and informal discussions about changing the bylaw for this. I mean, I've talked with you, Jeff, about changing the bylaw for this, to change the district, you know, so that there is some more of a height limit here. And I think that we wouldn't have had those discussions if not for the fact that we recognize that if you want to prevent this type of development, you have to change the law. And so it just doesn't seem fair to me to sort of draw a line in the sand here and say, this is now a new policy that we have enacted. Everything before is different. I've made this decision unilaterally. All these other cases that have come before us mean nothing. All of the you know, the discussions we've had about how, gee, wouldn't it be great if we could enact a bylaw to change this? All of those mean nothing. It just seems to me that what we're doing here is we're substituting our preferences for what really should be a bylaw. If we want this to be a bylaw, I'm happy to support a bylaw change to the zoning bylaw for future projects, but it seems wholly unfair to me to put the applicants through this amount of trouble and misery for what is, you know, a line in the sand over a preference as to how this should be. I think if we want to change this, I'd be happy to work with you to bring a bylaw before town meeting, but this can't be upon the applicants to do this.
Yeah, I want to also
I'd like to, oh, sorry.
I just want to express my frustration, Jeff. I think you're being fundamentally unfair to these applicants. I think you're just not looking at the law. You're looking at one part of the case, but not another part of the case. I think you're looking at this precedent, but it doesn't matter what all the other precedents say. I don't think you're fairly reading the statute. I just want to put that on the record too.
I'd like to get something on the record in response to Attorney Martin. I had earlier suggested to the applicants that that if they took the bulk out of the proposal, but went up with the height, that could be that could be approach that would be worthwhile to pursue. And then tonight I suggested even further, in an effort to try to work with the applicants, as we have in the past many times,
Yes,
modifying proposals during the hearing process. This is not something new for us. We've done it and done it.
no,
And so I suggested even another option of doing dormers without the height. So bulking out, but not up so much.
They
So
can do that by right.
two different, well, no, they would both be increases in height. Both
Within the
of those
zoning
yeah,
bylaw.
both of those, well, you could actually do that, right, yeah.
You do the dormers by right because you're not increasing the height. So
Right.
that doesn't require a special permit.
And I can go up to 28 feet, in the middle 10 feet by right. So just going up and not doing my dormers, I don't need a special permit for.
And then we don't get the benefit of assigning conditions to the project, and we have a lawsuit on our hands.
yeah,
But,
and the Bellotta case was about dormers, and that's what the court allowed, is dormers
One thing at a time,
on a condo.
Mr. Mikologic, Mr. is that-
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead. You
Um,
wanted to say something, go ahead.
Yeah, if your house just went up, you are still going up within the side setbacks. I mean, the point of the house that right here is
Yep.
is within this setback. So if you take this up, you're going to take the knee wall up as well. You're not just going to change the roof angle. You're going to take the whole knee wall up. So that's the same thing. You're building more of your house within the setback. So that wouldn't be a change.
But according to the bylaw, it's not increasing the height.
Can we see if
Well,
I
that's
can
what
do
he
this
was talking
two-step
about.
approach?
His last proposal was to take it up to 28 feet that way. So that is increasing the height.
But the increase would be by right.
Huh?
Can we see
Go
Can we
ahead,
see
go
about the
ahead.
two-step approach, and I can just move on with my life? Because nothing's gonna get voted tonight. Nothing's gonna get voted next week. It's been 5 months of this, and I'm just getting slow rolled, and I just want to move on. And if I can do that in two pieces, it's gonna be cheaper in the long run for me, and I'll actually get my project started.
Well, I don't know. It's up to the chair, I guess, but.
Well, I mean, obviously, we have town council here, we have Attorney Martin here. I guess what I would do is we could put it on the agenda again for the 25th of, we have a meeting on the 25th of January. But no, you could say before that meeting, if you want, after discussion with council, I'm gonna withdraw this.
I'm gonna run them pair. I'm gonna run them pair.
Whoa, no.
Or do you want to
Run
vote?
parallel.
Or do you want to vote? That's what I want to know. Do you want to vote or do you want to withdraw it and come up with another plan?
Rendered at this point that we can go up 28 feet with the 15-foot setbacks, and then we can apply after that's completed and do the dormers, which is permitted as of right per the zoning bylaws. I would like an opinion rendered so we can move on with life.
Then I get to go up.
Jeff wants to decline this even though it's unlawful, so we'll still appeal and go through the process and have to involve town council, because you're really leaving no result for us to get what appears to be significant precedent to have approved.
I mean, the
And
question is,
for-
are we gonna vote on this or are you gonna do something else with the building inspector that you get as a matter of right? That's the question.
Well,
It's been
Again.
5 months.
Yeah, the problem is we got two people who are gonna vote in favor of your project. And it looks like one person is gonna vote against your project. And unfortunately, with the law, with a 3-person board, you need to have unanimous. So if he votes against it, then the project is, as it is now, unless there's some kind of other statements made, is dead, and your only choice is, I think, 20 days to bring a lawsuit in the land court. I think.
Can I have a question? Can I ask a question of process and procedure? Now, if
Yeah.
we close out the investigatory phase of this hearing, and then we motion to table this for 95 days, Because we can do that with a vote of 2-1.
Mhm.
Does that then the special permit issues?
Well, yeah, but just, well, okay, all right, I see what you're saying. Yes, it'd be constructive grant.
And it would be as written with no conditions.
I guess we could do that, but I don't.
I don't understand. Can you repeat?
So if we
Donna, what do you say about that? Town council, what do you say about that? Yes, I would do that.
Look, sorry, I was reading the bylaw.
Okay, so the proposal is what happens, Donna, and for the applicants, the notion is that once we close the investigatory phase of a hearing, we have a certain period to make a ruling. And if we don't make that ruling with a certain period of time, because a motion has been tabled, then the special permit would issue automatically after that period of time has elapsed, if you were to go to town hall. And so the question is, Donna, is it possible for us to close out the investigatory phase of this hearing and table this motion for 90, is it 90 or 95 days? 90. Could we table it for 90 days and then have the special permit issue automatically because we have not taken action on it?
I'm good with it, but I want to see what town council says.
I mean, it's under the law, if you don't file a decision within the 90 days with the town clerk, it's constructively granted.
I'm good with it.
So I would like then to make a motion to do two things. I would like a motion.
I want something clear to everybody
Yes.
before anything's done because of all the discussion. When I read the bylaw, and somebody disagrees with me if they think I'm wrong, if I read the bylaw, they can't go up 28 feet with just a building permit, even if they do it within the setback as it is, within the footprint as it is now. Are you saying that you would just go up, you'd have the 15-foot side lots?
So what I'm proposing is the middle 10 feet of my house, because we have 40 feet, subtract 15, that's 30, the middle 10 feet. By right, I can go up to 28 feet because that's not encroaching on any setback. And then if you go to the picture above that, now that I've established my 28-foot height, I can put dormers on as long as those don't go up higher than the 28 feet. So if I can do this in 2 steps, I can gain 1.5 feet. And now I'm better off.
6.5.
Well, yeah, I mean, 1.5 feet higher than what we're proposing.
Yeah, I would want the building inspector to look at that. I wouldn't want you to leave here tonight thinking that that's automatic. I think what you're saying is that under D1 of the bylaw, the proposed alterations comply with the setback requirements. And then it goes on to say, or if they do not, then you've got those conditions. So you're saying that you're going up 28 feet, you would do so within the required setback requirements under the current zoning bylaw. So you would fit within that, being able to do that as of right.
With a building permit without coming to the board.
Right.
Correct.
I mean, I certainly think D1 can be read that way, but I wouldn't want you to leave here tonight thinking that somehow I've given a legal opinion or the board has.
Right.
You know, I just don't.
That's why maybe
I think-
some.
I mean, I think that
of-
really, like, it violates the spirit of what a special permit's trying to accomplish. Go ahead.
Right, right.
So may I ask the applicants, so Donna, if we table this, if we close out the investigatory phase of this hearing, if we make a motion to do that, and then we table this for 90 days, at day 91, can the applicants go pick up their special permit?
It's not quite that simple. There's a process, and it still activates an appeal period, but the permit will be constructively granted.
Applicants, if we were to delay this for basically say we're closing out the investigatory phase of this hearing, and we will table this motion for 90 days, and then that process will open up wherein you are able to basically claim constructively this permit, would that be an acceptable resolution?
Well, I'll speak for them if you don't mind, and I would say that I wouldn't counsel them to do that without going to the building inspector
Yeah.
with their revised plan, and in the interim, during the passage of that 90 days, if they get a building permit, then they, then they may not need that, or maybe Mr. Lacy, understanding that now the dormers can be built and the house, the height can go up, that he will vote with the other two members to grant the special permit, so that there won't be any appeal, because otherwise there's going to be an appeal one way or the other.
So
What do you
if we
say,
close,
Jeff? Well, Jeff, do you have any comments? Jeff, do you hear
No.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Do you have any comments?
No, I'm not ready to vote.
What, right,
I'm
no one's gonna vote.
that's what I'm
We can
talking
vote.
about. It's been 5 months and nothing new comes up in any of these
We can-
hearings.
We can vote to close right now. I think that's what Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, Andy.
You can't use that terminology. You either vote to close the public hearing,
Right,
period,
Right,
or not,
exactly.
if you're planning on it.
Exactly. So that's what the proposal is right now, to vote to close the public hearing, and then to be continued, perhaps, depending upon what happens after your investigation and your discussion with council. And
To April.
maybe,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, go
So,
ahead.
so we could maybe make a
One
motion.
more.
So if we make a motion
Can I,
to table,
before you do this, can
Who's
I
this?
say, David
Go ahead.
Holmes?
Yes, David, go
Can
ahead.
I say that it's very obvious that what you're doing is trying to get around the rules for your own board, to try to get around what you know is a negative vote from one of your members in
Mhm.
probably the shadiest way that I can possibly imagine? And I'll be looking to see any ways that you can, that could be prevented.
Well, we can just vote on it. Again, I just think we need a break so the council has an opportunity to talk to his clients, and perhaps council can talk to our town council, and maybe we can come up with a creative solution. Otherwise, we can close the investigatory hearing right now, move to vote, and we can do that too. And then we'll end up in litigation for the next couple of years. That's
Well,
what'll happen.
Mr.
Go
Chair,
ahead, Jeff.
generally when we close the hearing and we enter into the deliberatory phase,
Right,
we don't go right ahead and vote. What we
right.
do
I understand.
is, you know what we do, we
Yep,
have someone go away and draft a
Yeah.
sense of the board type draft decision that gets reviewed. And
Right.
once you have something right in front of you to review,
right,
you kick that around, and what we vote on is that decision.
correct. That's right. That's our
Otherwise, we
precedent.
get trapped into that 10-day business.
That's our precedent, yes.
So assuming this is okay with my clients, and this is the disadvantage of virtual meetings, I would ask on their behalf that the hearing be closed tonight, that it be
Okay.
continued to 30 days or whatever to the end of February, at which
Okay.
time you would have time to discuss and perhaps draft a proposed decision, and they would have time to go to the building inspector and request a permit. And if the building inspector turns down their permit, then would have two appeals if Mr. Lacy does not vote in the affirmative in February,
Sure.
and they can move about trying to get this.
And in fact, if he denies a building permit, the first appeal, I believe, is to the zoning board of appeals. Is it not?
Correct,
that's correct.
Okay.
correct. And we
All
would
right.
ask join with this.
I'm good with that. I'm good with that. Continuing to close a motion in a moment, a motion to close the investigatory part of the hearing and continue the case to the end of February, I think you said. Is that right? The end of February. So that'll give the three of you, counsel and the two clients, an opportunity to talk to the building inspector or come up with other creative solutions. And obviously, Jim, Attorney Martin, and you can obviously talk to our counsel too about that. Go ahead, Donna.
I'm very concerned about you qualifying closing the investigatory part of the public hearing.
Okay, why?
Just add another issue on appeal as to whether the public hearing was closed or whether only a portion of the public hearing was closed.
Well,
The bottom line is the public hearing is where people give input.
right.
And then the deliberative process, you have 90 days, and it's not part of the public hearing per se.
Okay, all right.
End it, but it's not part of the public hearing. So I'm very concerned about these qualifiers. I
Well,
think that if you want to be clear, you're closing the public hearing and then you're entering the deliberative stage.
yeah, that's what I meant. That's exactly.
Jim should comment on that. It's his clients that are in jeopardy here, but I'm concerned about you adding those kind of adjectives.
No, we
Yeah, I mean,
want
this
the
is what we have
public
done
hearing.
I'm sorry.
We
Go
want the
ahead.
public hearing. We would like the board to close the public hearing tonight.
Okay,
And this matter in general, we can be continued to the end of February. For
Okay.
what? For board deliberations, for board possible vote, whatever the board looks to do, that will give my client time to go to the building inspector. So
okay,
the motion that we're asking the board to make is to close the public hearing and to reschedule this matter for a date late in February.
okay.
Sounds
I'm
good.
good with that.
All right.
I'm
Megan
good
and
with
Steve,
that.
are you okay?
Okay, do you want to make that, you two are good. Do you want to make that motion, Andy? And I'll second it. And-
Sure. So I'm making a motion to close the public hearing. So I think I think first we make the motion to close the public hearing and then we'll make the motion to continue it to another date, or do we
A
want? Because we
motion
probably
to
should.
close the public hearing and to continue the hearing to.
No.
We need a specific date.
You can't say hearing, it's over.
Yeah. So
You need
let's
to
just make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, fine. I second it. Jeff, what do you say about it? Any discussion?
I third it.
Okay,
Okay.
great. So Jeff Lacy, what is your vote on this?
Aye.
Okay, Andy Berg, what is your vote on this?
I vote aye.
And Chair Chuck Damari votes aye, so we have unanimous. The public hearing is now closed. Tessa, make sure that's noted in the minutes. Now let's discuss another date that this might be continued to for deliberation. Is that okay, Donna?
Yeah, or that the matter will be on the agenda again, because I don't know if you're gonna do deliberations. I don't know what you're gonna do.
On the agenda, and if we in fact have a meeting, it'll be deliberations, okay? So let's pick out a date at the end of February. Jim, what do you say? It can't be a Tuesday when we go to the end of February. It could be the 24th, the 25th. It could be the 20, no, it can't be the 22nd because it's a legal holiday. So
How about the 25th?
The 25th would work for me. Yep.
Yeah, the 25th is good on this end. How is that for you, Jeff?
I
What day of the week is that?
Thursday.
25th is a Thursday.
Is it the second Thursday of
It's
the month?
It's the fourth Thursday of the month.
I have Conservation Commission meetings on the second and third.
Are
I'd
you
have to
more
check on
excited?
that because, let me check on that, because during some months I have 2 meetings a month for Concom.
Do
Sorry.
you want to kick it to March 4th?
Oh.
Huh?
That's another week.
Well, I'm just trying to get a date that,
Yeah, let me just check the website for Conservation Commission. It'll tell me how many,
Okay,
when
well,
which is.
we would agree to the 18th or the 25th.
I
Okay.
believe both of those look good on this end. I don't know how they are for you, Jeff and Chuck.
they're good for 18th and the 25th are both good for me.
I already have ZBA down, but I don't know which ZBA it is.
Well, the only other ZBA matter pending that I haven't written the agenda for is January 25th.
Oh,
That
January.
is scheduled. January 25th is scheduled. I haven't put
Okay.
out the agenda yet,
Right.
but there's a public hearing on January 25th. On another lake, no, that's not an LA case. That's just a deliberative case for no, it is an LA case. We have that and another case on the prefab garage. So we have 2 cases
Right.
on the 25th
Right.
and another LA case.
I have
We'll
to
see
write
you
a
there.
script for that. Okay, good. All right. So
Yeah, the
ZBA, The 18th?
The 18th or the 25th of February, we're talking about.
Chair,
That's-
the 18th would not be a conflict with the Conservation Commission, so.
18th, I am free on the 18th.
I like the 18th.
Works.
Donna, can you at least pencil it just in case? Huh?
You want me there?
Could be. So that if you could pencil it in, I'd appreciate it. Okay, 7 o'clock, all right? 7 o'clock, February 18th, ZBA, and this matter will be on the agenda, okay?
Do we have to make a formal motion to continue it to the 18th at 7 p.m.?
Okay, okay,
Date, time, and place certain.
yeah.
I
all right,
guess then may I make a motion
Okay.
to continue this matter until February 18th at 7 p.m. in a virtual meeting format?
Okay, and Jeff, do you second that?
Second.
Okay, Jeff, what is your vote on this? You vote yes or no?
Aye.
And your vote, Andy Berg,
Is I.
and Chuck Demari's vote is aye. The ayes have it, it's unanimous, it passes. Okay, let's go to the next item on the agenda. I can remember what the agenda was. We have a Shutesbury All Boards meeting on January 19th.
Hi, everyone.
Goodbye, goodbye.
Good night.
Good night.
Does anybody want to go to the Shutesbury All Boards meeting on January 19th? It begins at 6:30 p.m. and it goes to 8 o'clock p.m. Does anybody, I mean, I will go if no one else goes, but the future is yours, Andy, if you want to go. You're the youth. You're the youth.
I know, God, the youth is aging rapidly. I can make it that night. Is it the 19th you said I can make it from 6? I'm sorry.
6:30 to 8 p.m. I mean, but you could.
I
I'm
can
sure-
make it from 6:30 to 7. I have a conflict from 7 to 8 that night. But I could make it from 6:30 to 7 if we presented early.
Okay, so Tessa, this is what I would ask. And if there's a problem, you let me know, and then I will show up. But see if, who's running that meeting? Is the select board running that meeting? The
I
all boards
believe
meeting?
so, but I don't know for certain.
Okay, we'll find out from Becky Torres or the select board who's running that meeting and see if they'll put the ZBA on the agenda shortly after 6:30. Maybe it's 6:35. Maybe they can go, the ZBA can go first.
I'll
And
give a
we can
quick
use-
update on sort of this,
update.
are the
Okay.
hearings we've held. I don't think
Yeah.
it'll take, those usually don't take that long to actually
Right.
present.
Yeah.
And yeah, because I can stay until 7 or I can come after 8. Both of those work. It's just
Yeah,
that
but
7
it
to
ends
8.
it ends at 8. And another possibility, if it can't work that way, I just joined the meeting at a few minutes before 7 because is the other possibility. Okay. And by the way, Herb, if you want to come, or Jeff, if you want to come, please do. But find out, Tessa, and let Andy and I know if ZBA could be very, very early on the agenda so that he can leave the meeting virtually at least a minute or two before 7. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, all right, all right.
Oh,
Next on the agenda, education, a guy, go ahead.
Chuck,
Yeah,
I don't know. I have a conflict with 2 other work meetings with other towns that night, so I'm
Okay.
gonna be out of commission. But
okay, okay.
But, you might think about possibly introducing the idea that that there are issues at the lake.
Yes, no, yes.
It's our most densely developed area. It's, a finite resource.
Yeah,
And, it's a mixed bag, people love it down there for the trees and for the tranquility and stuff. And yet it's getting built up and it's irritating a lot of people. And it's difficult for us to deal with, as witnessed
Yep.
by tonight.
Yeah. And I mean, oh, sorry, go ahead, Chuck. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry, Jeff.
look at Jeff, I've already committed, and I think this board has already committed to work jointly with the planning board to take a walk down there. And I'm suggesting we do it. I mean, I know I'll be eligible for a vaccine very soon, but May or June, probably we'll be able to take a walk, most of us will be vaccinated and, or, you know, but when we're all vaccinated, especially those of us who are over 65 years old, I think we're gonna have priorities in March or April. I'm okay taking a walk after I'm vaccinated. I don't know about you, Andy, but you probably get
Yeah.
close
I've
to
got
that.
to sign out. I'm having bad connection. Sorry.
Oh, no
Okay,
problem, Herb. Nice to see you.
yeah, we'll talk to you later,
See,
Herb.
see you
Because,
when it snows.
I would totally, Jeff, because I mean, I totally agree with you on this. I mean, I think we're all on the same page about, because I think some very minor tweaks that we could propose would really prevent, in the future, some of these concerns. And I think if they're voted on a town meeting, like I'm totally behind it and I'm willing to work on language and I just want to put my sort of full-throated support behind that and my desire and willingness to work with you on that and with the planning board, because it might just be, this might be a matter of, a proposal to add in 5 words, to the zoning bylaw. That really might be enough to do certain things.
Yeah, like, don't dare think of it.
That's, yeah,
Well,
something like that.
well, you can have you can have a unanimous decision by the planning board and the same unanimous decision by the zoning board. Both the boards recommend that to the, whatever it is, decision A, B, C, to town meeting, and it probably would pass if both boards unanimously make that. I mean, one thing, just thinking out loud, is you could have 28 feet right there and 35 feet across the street, or 26 feet and 34 feet across the street. I mean,
yeah.
but I think we have to take a walk and look at everything, because maybe we're going to have 3 zoning districts around the lake.
Yeah.
Lake A, Lake B, and Lake C. I mean, who knows? That's why we should take a walk. And it doesn't mean you can't go on your own walk alone, Jeff, and take a leadership role in this. And then when the time comes, I'd say May or June, probably I'll be vaccinated by then. And Herb's probably already eligible since he's an MD. I don't know, but you're probably, I assume you're going to get a vaccination when you can, right, Jeff? I'm assuming that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My
Okay.
mother just got one the other day.
Oh,
Yeah,
what good news.
I think in May we're going to all be vaccinated. We can wait for Andy to make sure.
I'm looking forward to it so much. It's going to be so nice. And I think that this walk around will give us some really good ideas about, some firm things we could propose. And I know that this would pass through town meeting if both boards recommended it. And then we don't have to consider this particular situation again, beyond what, beyond things that are already in the pipeline.
Exactly. I'd rather have something much clearer in the bylaws that I think, that at least I think is consistent with the statute, the town council thinks is consistent with the statute, and we have tiers.
Yeah,
I don't have any problem with it.
And I mean, the thing that I love about it is it gives people clarity when they're making purchases or when they're thinking about what projects they want to pursue, about what we're gonna, what will be allowed in town. And so it's just sort of it's very clear cut. You're on the lake, it's 26 or 28 feet, whatever you're, a tier behind, you're 30, 35 feet, whatever you want to have it. And then there's no argument. If they meet it, they meet it. If they don't, they're out of luck.
Okay, let's move on.
Hold on, I have to run and get a cord for my computer because I'm about to run out of batteries.
Okay. Let's see. I'll just wait for Jeff to come back. How am I doing? I kept going out, Tessa. I don't know why. I went out of the meeting 5 or 6 times, and I'm not sure why, but I was out of the meeting for about a minute 5 or 6 times, and I'm not. I'm sure
You
I
seem to
wasn't
have been
missed.
the only one, so I don't know.
Okay. It was bizarre. I don't know why. Okay. I think I have a lot of juice here, so.
Oh, we've lost Jeff. He will be back, I am sure, but I think his computer has.
While I have you, Tessa, did you see the bill from that Gazette? I told you it was over $900. Did you verify? You have not seen that?
I don't.
Okay. We have to figure out when Jeff comes back. The bills used to be between $250 to $350, and they started going up to around $500. And I unless I'm having eye problems, I think the bill went up to $900 something dollars, and I don't understand why. If it was a little longer, with one sentence longer or two sentences longer at the most, than the month before that was $525 or something. So I don't know why I saw 900. Maybe it's just a mistake. But if it is,
Yeah,
we have.
I haven't seen a physical copy come in. I can double check that email and see if there was an invoice attached to the
Yeah, there
email.
was something they sent to me on the approval, and there was some kind of an invoice attached to that or in the body of the email. I'm not sure. But
Okay.
I do want to raise that as new business at some point. We can probably do it at the next meeting. Okay, I don't think there's any education or guidance here. Micah, do you have anything to say? Micah, she's still here? Or he? No, I mean, I can see them on the
I can
screen.
ask them to unmute.
Micah, can you unmute? Mika or Micah? They're just on virtual existence. Herb, is Herb gone? I mean, I see Herb. I see the H. Okay, here's Jeff back.
Kirk came back and Jeff.
I don't see Herb. He was.
Jeff is here. Very good.
Okay, Jeff.
Hello,
Jeff.
Jeff.
Jeff,
Yeah,
I was saying.
I had to restart.
I was saying as part of new business. I'll just summarize it quickly. The bill came in for the hearing that's going to happen on January 25th. And unless I misread it, it was $900 and something. So I think if it was a sentence or two longer than our most recent one that happened to do with the prefab garage, I don't know why it's $900 and something, but let's take a look at that. And then if it is $900 and something, let's put it on the agenda to figure out what we're going to do about that. And I don't know why it would be, but because all the others were 500 to 550, all the recent ones. All right, so
Chuck,
go
I
ahead.
find that email, and I don't know if this is the formal invoice, because it's just embedded in the email you forwarded to me, but it says $610.32.
Oh, $610. Okay. All right, then. Okay. All right. So that makes sense. If it was two sentences longer than the other one, it would go from 540 or 550 to 610. Although I think that's just. Why do we have to put this twice in the? Is this a statutory requirement, Jeff?
It's
2 weeks in a row. Why do we have to do that?
Because the statute says it.
Yeah.
it's a newspaper of general circulation. And so
Yeah.
you just wonder what general circulation means.
Yeah. Well, it's unfortunate. But we're gonna probably have to raise the fees.
It might be getting harder to find these days.
Yeah, I think with the Gazette struggling, this is like one of the only places that they can really raise their revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but our new fees right now are $400 for these special permits for variances, appeals from building inspectors. So that's what it is now, but I have a feeling it's going to be up to 500 very soon, or 600, but we'll keep our eye on these bills. Okay, so we got a meeting on the 25th. We got a meeting on the 18th, 25th of January, which is 2 hearings, and there's going to be another lake case, which is going to encroach. It says it on the application, it's going to encroach, and so I don't know if there's any houses around it or not, but there'll be another controversial case. And then I think you're coming up with the decision, Jeff, on the metal prefab garage, not garage, what do they call it?
Tessa, do we have that application electronically before us?
The 16 Wyola, the new one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I didn't want to muddy the water, so I didn't send it out yet. But
That's the metal thing, right?
oh no, sorry, I was confused at what you were asking about. So at the last hearing, that was the 80 Shore Drive, Andrew Cloutier.
Yeah, that's the prefab.
That's
the
the
metal
one that the hearing was closed and it was moved to the deliberation.
Yeah. I just need the file and the case number so I can do the decision.
Okay, I mean, the case is the 20-003.
Yeah, and
wait a minute. What is this case?
I need the file because I need to reference any drawings, any things that, any
Okay.
exhibits.
I believe it's on town website. Let me check on that.
I don't know that we've posted the
That one. Okay.
that
did-
one. Yeah.
I can resend it. I believe I have it in. Let me check for you,
Let me
Jeff.
see.
I believe I do have an electronic version.
So the 25th is, and I have to write the agenda just so I have it. 25th is Cloutier, and I don't know if I'm saying that right. And then the other one, do you remember the name of the other one? I know I have it in my files.
It's Berwick. It's the 16 Riola Drive, Matthew Berwick, Boroweic.
Okay, in fact, he was present at this meeting briefly. He just was there. Okay, all right. Is there anything else we have to talk about? New business or old business? No one's here. Micah is still here. I don't know what he or she is mute, or he, I don't know who it is, but anything else to discuss tonight? New business, old business? Okay, Jeff?
Yeah, I did speak to Attorney McNichol a little bit more about the use of associates.
Okay.
And she and Bob Ritchie are going to be discussing it. And
okay.
So she didn't have an opportunity to say anything tonight. Maybe the two of them are still discussing it, but just the idea of when an associate can be used, and you know, as you know, I think they can be dropped in as needed, and I'm hoping that Donna will be able to change her position on that, so that, say, if I were out tonight for some reason, you could have dropped Herb in.
Sure, I see no reason why not.
And then you could have approved the project and said, the hell with it, and
right,
it would have been over.
But right,
that's what I should have done, for Christ's sake. Just,
well, you know, it's better than 2 years of litigation, but
for the minutes, Bob Ritchie, is that the Attorney General?
Attorney Robert Ritchie. Yeah, he was previously town council of the town of Amherst, and he's a well-known and reputable zoning and land use attorney. I have had the pleasure of being associated with since on both sides, against him and the same side of him in many cases. We've worked together in many capacities, multiple capacities. He's a great guy.
So Jeff, I just re-forwarded you the electronic version of the 80 Shore Drive. So
okay,
hopefully that
good.
shows up.
I'll use that in making the decision.
Good. Thank you,
Wonderful.
Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
It's appreciated. You know, there's been a couple of, you know, I don't want to, maybe I shouldn't talk about it, but the United States Supreme Court and the Massachusetts Supreme Court came out with some new decisions on regulatory takings that's probably worth looking. So I'll just circulate that. But the United States Supreme Court overruled a whole bunch of prior precedents and is now inviting taking cases in their courts. And it changed, it's there's a great concern about the state law, how that used to be diminished. It's no longer diminished if you're in a federal court, because it's federal law that applies, not state law. There's taking clauses in the federal constitution and the state constitution. So we're probably going to be looking at that too in the future, because it's the United States Supreme Court has now decided they're going to expand takings. So,
yeah, that's a dangerous court to be thinking about land use regulatory matters. Makes me very nervous.
Yeah, it's really scary. Yeah.
Right, and which is part of the problem I have with some of these cases. We better get our statutes and our bylaws and our case law on the same page, not conflicting with each other. You know, making sure that they're approved appropriately by town council and the Attorney General's office. Anyway, just something to think about. I have these cases, but I'll stop circulating them. They just came out like yesterday and the day before.
Mhm.
But basically, people aren't going to be going to state court anymore where there's basically no regulatory taking. And they'll be going to the federal courts where they're going to expand it. It was a 5-4 decision.
Yeah.
Judge Roberts wrote it, so.
Oh, Roberts wasn't the fourth.
Yeah, he wrote the decision. He was the number 5. He was not, he was 5. Yeah, he wrote it.
Wow.
Which one
Yeah,
crossed
it's-
over? Which
Yeah,
other?
I don't know, but I can guess who they are. I don't know who they are, but I can guess. I haven't.
Well, you only
No, I
have
just-
3 liberal judges now, and then
Yeah,
Roberts joins them sometimes.
yeah,
So
exactly.
if
Exactly.
it wasn't Roberts, it must have been one of the conservative judges that.
I'm assuming those who believe in property rights are gonna be on the 5, and those who don't are gonna be on the 4. So I
Right.
have to read the whole case. So far, I've just read attorney law review like articles about it, and journal articles about the case and what it's gonna mean for zoning. And I have it somewhere, and I'll probably start forwarding it to you just to look at,
Mhm.
just consider, because we should be considering it. There was basically no regulatory taking, or the regulatory taking in the state court was difficult to make that kind of a case, but the feds didn't like that, so they started overruling a whole bunch of United States Supreme Court precedent that we had to defer to the state first. You had to exhaust your remedies in the state before before the federal courts would even entertain your case. All those cases said you have to exhaust your remedies in the state have been overturned and reversed by the United States Supreme Court. So basically inviting these cases to the federal courts under federal law. So, and which means it used to be in a taking case, you have to render the value of the property almost useless or almost non-existent. Now it's just any diminished value could be a taking, in the federal side, not in the state side. So
It's really interesting.
yeah, it is. So anyway.
Yeah, I guess one other connected item to the 16 Wyola hearing, I didn't want to, because there's so much material for this case, I didn't want to confuse things by sending out stuff for that, but it has come in. I can send out the electronic version of the 16 Wyola, and there are hard copies for, I know Andy can't go to the town hall, but for the rest of the board, if you want to pick up a hard copy.
I think I want to pick up a hard copy, Tessa.
Yeah.
And because right now my computer can't, I have my computer only has old files on it. I can't create any new file. Tomorrow I was on the phone 5 hours today with techies. So I'll probably on the phone a couple hours tomorrow, but if you can get a hard copy, when's the next time you're going in, Tessa?
Probably next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
Yeah.
That gives me time to write the agenda, right? Because it's a week before the meeting. Is that? What's the 25th? Yeah, so I'll try to connect with me to remind me to come up there on Tuesday, and I'll get a hard copy of it. Okay.
And they are the full-sized plan, so I think it would help.
Yeah, I'd like to have one hard copy, because I have like all around me are hard copies of everything, and I have some things on the computer that are old files. But
Jeff, do you think you'd be stopping by just so I can let Grace know if it isn't a time that works out for me?
Stopping by, let's see.
You don't have to pick a time, just let me know if it's something that you plan on doing.
Yeah, I go by there all the time. Yeah.
Okay. So I will lay out, because I can tell her exactly where I'm putting it, so that it's easy if one of you comes to the door to get
I'm
it.
going to come on January 19th, Tessa.
Okay.
That's because that's when you're working. When are you working? 10 o'clock to 12?
10 to noon, yeah, generally. I mean, often it's longer than that, but that's my formal.
Yeah, so sometime between 10 and noon, and maybe we can text each other before that, not email, because, well, I guess I get the email on the iPhone. It still works on the iPhone.
But yeah, you can.
And we'll figure out a time, probably 11 o'clock or something. Go ahead, Jeff.
Jeff, hold on. Oh, sorry, I just hit the wrong button.
Yeah, and I don't know why I kept zooming out. I don't know why. It happened 4 or 5 times. I zoomed out of the meeting for a minute. I didn't touch anything. I don't know what happened. If it's a Wi-Fi, I don't know why that happened. I never actually left the meeting, but it turned off the video and it turned off the sound and I didn't do anything. So I don't know why
And
that would
Grace
happen.
generally works from 10 to 1 and then from 3 to 5. Those are her hours. So, and now that I know when I'm next Tuesday, I can lay the stuff out. But I don't know, Jeff, do you think you'd want to get there before next Tuesday? Because I could tell her it's in the mailbox, ZBA mailbox, but I could pull out 1 or 2 sets to make it easier.
So this is not what you just sent me. This is a new
No.
case.
Which I will also, this is a new case. It's 80 Wyola Drive. It's also a tear down rebuild.
Isn't it 16 Wyola Drive, Tessa?
Sorry, it is 16 Wyola
Yeah,
Drive.
and
It's
again,
a
you're gonna
tear
like
down
that one,
rebuild.
Jeff. It's another it's a tear down reconstruction and definitely encroaching on the setbacks. So
Oh,
you're
boy.
I don't know if there's any it's on a peninsula, so I don't know if there's anybody that's gonna be affected. So we'll take a look at it, but
I will just
okay.
one last note. This has all sort of spurred me to buy the Borowski book. I've got a very old copy, right? So this is not totally up to date. The new copies are like $500, but the ones
Jeff,
from the early 2000s are not. And
what's the
so
most recent edition, Jeff? What year is it? The most recent edition?
Oh, see, I have usually you buy the Bobrowski book once. DCR bought it for me. This is 2002. And let's see. Is it? Yeah, 2002. And then I've got updates that they put out.
because I think I have, let me see here. I have I think I have the second edition. I just have to go look at when that was published. But
Yeah, I have another one from MCLE that.
Yeah, I have that. What date is that? I have those. You can get those a year old, very cheap.
oh, that's
Yeah,
very good. Yeah,
That's
You
a
can get it
double.
for like $25.
that's
Yeah.
great.
That's a
And they're
double.
very
shot.
good. What year is that one, Jeff, you have?
This one was 2005.
Oh, okay.
2005.
But you could probably get, Andy, a 2019 or 2018, which is, pretty up to date.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
For $25.
Can you tell me will you remind me what that's called again? I'm sorry, I didn't
Mass
catch.
Continuing Legal Education. Massachusetts Continuing Legal Education. We call it MCLE. And it's one of the most established places. I have that too. I have
The Mass Zoning Manual. Here we are. I've got this. This is really neat. I will have to go take a look at this because it also comes as, that's really neat. Cool.
Two volumes. It's a
you have
2-volume
this one?
set. Yeah, I have a 2-volume set.
Andy, do you have this one?
I don't have that one yet, but I'm going to go see what it runs. I'm going to go take a look at some used bookstores right now. So
Call them up, Mass Continuing Legal Education. They're on West Street in Boston, right? Just call them up and tell them you don't want the most recent because it's very expensive, but you want the last year's version. They usually sell them for $25.
cool. I'll give them a call. That's a really neat idea. Because that I too have the 2002 Bobrowski. I just looked, and so that would be a nice addition to it.
Why don't we get the most recent and just have it for have them for planning board use or zoning board use and buy them out of our ZBA money.
Well, unfortunately, our ZBA money is going. We only have a budget of $1,000, and I think because of these bills.
Yeah. Well, when we submit our new budget, maybe the ZBA, in care of the chair, should have the latest.
Yep.
In Bobrowski and MCLE.
Yep, I agree. I agree. Yeah, even if we bought one that was a year old for $25, It's not that
Yeah,
smart,
yeah.
you know, but
But I will
MCLE
look for,
is,
yeah, that's cool.
I found the Lombard case in that, Jeff.
Lombard, yeah,
That was in that MCLE.
right. Yep,
You
Yep.
probably saw it, right?
yep, yep. I was gonna go after that case tonight, but,
I know, you didn't get, there's too much to do.
yeah. Well, yeah, never- anyway, it's,
Yeah. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
We'll make a motion to adjourn.
Jeff,
second,
do you want to second that?
Yeah.
Right.
What's your vote, Andy?
I will vote in much suspense. I vote
What's your
aye.
vote? Jeff Lacy, what is your vote?
I vote dinner.
Captain Murray, my vote is aye. If we have to do these individual votes now, because we're virtual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
I
Tessa,
vote
thank
for
you.
dinner.
On the 19th, remind me, but on the 19th, I'm gonna show up probably around 11 o'clock, but please send me a reminder. And I'll get you an agenda around, before that or just around that time for the
Okay.
25th.
Sounds good. Thank you much, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Nice to see you all.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care, everybody.